Hello,
What's up, you guys?
everyone. How is it going?
Happy Monday. Kaz here. What's up, dude?
Beep boop boppity beep boop boop to you as well.
Right back
Kaz.
at you, man.
Great to see you. Great to see you. Today is going to be a super fun podcast.
Yes!
Whereas last time I just sat around making drinks while Katie and Kelsey made noises. I get to be a part of the one with all the things to say and
yes, you
be a part of the world. So without any further ado, I will introduce everyone to my sister, the lawyer.
Whoa!
Hello!
What's up?
Hello.
Her name is Noelle.
Yeah. Do you want me to do that?
Yeah, I mean, you can do it if you'd like. So this is my sister, Noelle. She is a lawyer. She passed the lawyering schools, and as well as whatever the other lawyery thing is, if she can tell us about, we can ask her about. Because as you can see, I am highly ignorant of quite a bit of it, and so that's kind of why I wanted to have her on so we could chat and actually get, some of the things that like I don't often speak with her about her job specifically. So getting into like what it's like to be a lawyer, I do know enough to know that she's not in a courtroom all the time. So there's that. But
true.
Just kind of having fun, seeing where that goes. So, would you like to introduce yourself and what you do, and any of the other things that are required of being a lawyer on the internet?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, I'm Noelle. I'm Blaine's little sister. I am an actual attorney, practicing attorney. I do in-house legal work at a national nonprofit, so not the sort of law that you would necessarily see on TV, but lots of the law that happens all around us. And just some disclaimers as, like, depending on what these questions look like or what we get into in the conversation, I just want it to be said at the beginning, like I'm supposed to, that nothing I say constitutes legal advice, and nothing I say creates an attorney-client relationship between me and anybody else. If you need legal advice, please seek it out in the actual city and state that you're in. And if you need help finding resources, Google's really great.
What a good lawyer she is.
Perfect.
Way to pre-disclose everything.
Yeah.
Hawks. And let's get it started with a nice Kanpai.
Yes,
So
Kanpai!
virtual Kanpai.
Kanpai.
Hey, you both are having tea. Nice.
Yes, I'm having a nice spicy green tea. Just kidding.
Spicy.
I'm
What?
totally joking. It's very mild, citrus flavored, normal green tea. Woo!
Oh, I was like, that sounds fun. I'm having some corn silk tea, which is
Sounds
Korean,
like grandmother tea.
That sounds actually kind of
so
weird.
Good, man. I love it for the summer.
When did you first have that tea? Because you I feel
In
like
Korea.
you've been having it for a while, but it was when you were in Korea.
I had it in South Korea. I had gone out drinking the night before.
You're allowed to say you were drinking the night before. I do all the time.
You're an adult.
Yeah, I was feeling like something. I needed some liquids, but I didn't want it to be water. I wanted something fun, and it just looked ridiculous. I don't know. It's got corn. It had corn on the label, and I was like, "What? That's crazy!" So I got it, and it tastes like drinking a delicious corn bread, which I know sounds not. I know it doesn't sound good, but it's amazing.
Okay, maybe I'll have to try it.
Because in Japan,
I also have the taste of an old person, so that I enjoy it.
Possibly, but in Japan when they've got the corn on the side of the can and it's a warm can,
corn potage.
It's literally corn soup in just a can that you get in a vending machine.
It.
I
love how corn is represented in many Asian cuisines.
Right? But it's also American.
I think delicious.
Mom Air says hi, by the way.
Hi, what's up, Mom?
It's too many spins to get the lid off this thing.
Oh man, I can't. Someday we'll have to go to international trips together because you know about Korea, we know about Japan. I'm I want to know about Korea.
And what was your big? Because I remember you had a friend in Korea when you wanted to go. What made you say this is the time I'm gonna go to Korea?
It's the moment.
This moment, music. Oh, we never let it go.
It was the summer between my junior and senior year of college. I was doing an international internship and was working in Mongolia, and I had time between the end of my internship in Mongolia and school starting again.
Nice.
And I always wanted to go to South Korea, and it's literally kind of on the way home to Seattle. So I was like, I'm just gonna go, and had a friend there. So stayed with her. She was teaching English there, so she brought me to her school one day. It was fun. It was like just a week in between, and then
Okay.
home. Yeah.
But it's like a week doesn't seem like enough, though.
Right.
I mean, I've never been to Korea, but
And it was a week in one city, right? Yeah.
Yeah, only
And I gotta-
in Seoul.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't just one city.
Oh, I thought it was one city.
Well,
And then you went up to the DMZ.
Yeah. I'm assuming similar to Japan, it's easy to kind of like get around in certain areas. I was mostly in Seoul, but like the subway is like super easy. The app is literally in English, and like it directs you. It's amazing.
Yes.
It directs you like exactly where to stand, like which car to stand and
Oh,
wait for and get on in order for like the easiest transfer in
On
your
the
next
app.
station.
Oh, interesting.
On the app.
Okay, yeah, no, there's
Korea.
pictures on the wall in Japan of that, but it doesn't have like an app or a system or anything like that facilitates that as well. That'd be cool.
I think Google does.
I barely had to think.
Google might,
That's
yeah.
the best.
Oh, I think no, you are right. Google does tell you which train car to get on
but
now
it's
when
not
you
like
do
a
a Google
specific
map.
app. It's just Google. You're like, okay,
I mean, that is a
Google.
specific app. It's Google.
Okay, I guess so. You're right, but like, it's Google's massive. Of course they do that.
Google
If an
told
app
me
can
how
do
many
that,
times I
Google
went
could
to
do it.
Torero's in the last like 6 months. They're like, hey, do you like this place? And they just like gave
What
me.
was that number?
Well, before
Probably, like,
before
before
the Backstreet, before the Backstreet Boys tour, it was like
Probably
8 times in like 2 months or something like that.
Like, you like going
They're
here.
like, oh hey, you've been here recently.
Google's like confused. Like, is this your house?
Did you want to go? Like, I was trying to
Place
like,
of work?
Change your home
you're
setting?
like trying to
Yeah.
Google like a location, and it's like, oh, did you mean Torero's? I'm like, no, I didn't.
no,
but now I do.
It's like something that starts with not T or O or R.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
really?
You're like, no, but yes. Let's go there on the way. Oh, it's so cool. I know. We are still wanting to go out. We're like planning more Japan trips. Like, just it's so excited just to get out of our box. Is there anything
It's a
you
pretty
are-
big box.
This box is a lot bigger than some people's, that's for sure. But is there anything like you're really looking forward to like get out of COVID land or anything like that?
Oh man. No.
No.
Not really. I mean, it's a very convoluted answer. I'm currently in Oklahoma, but I live in Boston. But
Yes.
I want to live back in Seattle, where you guys are.
Woo!
So that's
Seattle.
what I'm looking forward to.
Okay.
Is eventually moving home. That's really it.
Right.
Home is where the heart is, right? Right. I think so.
I mean, yes.
Yeah, duh.
But it's also Seattle.
And Seattle's fantastic.
Seattle's where the heart is.
Yeah. For
It's
everyone.
true.
Everyone's like, oh, Seattle's so great. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah. I've lived a lot of
I know.
places, but this is really great.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people not in Washington for the past like 5 or so years, and not a single person I've talked to has ever said anything bad about Washington.
Wow. Look
They're
at
like, oh,
us.
it's beautiful there. I was like, yes, it is.
Yeah, and everything's
Fresh
here.
air.
Music scene. I'm like, yes, we do. It's
I was
it's a
talking-
fun place to be.
I was talking to an Illinois transplant the other day, and trying to like explain to them because they were like, they're like, oh, you guys have like a lot of different type of people here, and I was like, yeah, in like an hour and a half, you're in a different country, like
Legitimately.
like as soon as you get to Eastern Washington, you might as well be in the middle of this
That's true.
country, you know, like it's
like-
a night and day situation, but the money and the jobs are here in King County, and so
yeah.
it drags everybody from where they are into here, and so you get this really interesting conglomeration of all these different ideas and people, and so you're able to have all of these people with interesting and different ideas that at the same time
There's a
all live
farm
together.
like 2 hours away.
Yeah, and
Also.
even in our county, you know, you go down to Enumclaw, people raise cows. Like it's actually a thing that happens.
I'm looking forward to the day where it's just like all city. Just kidding.
Are you?
No, not at all.
Are you looking forward to that? We were just talking
My
about how we wanted to
dream-
leave like Tokyo City and like do more interesting outside of the city things.
Yeah, small towns,
Yeah.
baby. The best.
Yes, my dream is to have a condo in the city because I love being in a place where I can just like walk downstairs and get food and go back up to my house.
Right.
So I want like a condo in the city, but I also want a cabin in the woods
Yes.
that I can just like drive to easily and
Right.
get to like a completely secluded, like in nature place. And Washington is just the absolute perfect place for both of those. It's really the only place.
Yeah,
Genius.
and you've
Perfect.
definitely got to have that duality of everything. It makes sense in the even
Right.
if you don't have like if you don't own the cabin, let's say you timeshare some cabin, then you at least get like the ability to go for your period of
Yeah.
time to like go enjoy it, get out of the city. I don't think one lifestyle is healthy as a human.
Oh yeah, like I only go to the city places.
Yeah, like I live in the city and I
Pollution.
walk and I do all these things. It's like yeah, but like what about other things? I feel like
Yeah.
it's important as a human to get out and experience more than just
Get in the
the
nature,
city.
man.
And that doesn't mean like you go on vacation or like waste money or spend like just take a weekend sometimes. Like it's a couple days off and just go to a park, go somewhere that doesn't look like what you currently experience or what you consistently experience. 'Cause
Right. Gotta get out there. Is there anything, because like in Boston, you're kind of like in a suburban area-ish, kind of, right? Is there anything like so
I know,
different?
yeah.
Is there anything like so different from like when you were living in Washington to Boston that you like, that no one thinks about? They're like, oh, of course everyone's like always angry. Or there's like always like those stereotypes. Was there anything like uniquely Boston that you're like, well, that's different. That's a new flavor.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I can say it's not a secret to literally anybody I talk to. Boston is not my favorite place to live. I think Boston's a really fun place to visit, but not my favorite place to live, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense.
Boston, I can't really say that people are angry there, but people are way more uptight. I remember my first day being there. Granted, I was in this like microcosm of law school, but I feel like I experienced it outside of that as well. But people just like, they're just so like, they are just, everything matters so much all the time.
That makes sense.
And coming from the West Coast and Washington and Seattle, I was just like, wow, we all can take a step back. It doesn't actually matter that much really in the long run.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I was genuinely just confused. Like I couldn't really understand it. And so I think a lot of the sort of gruffness or like angry stereotype that you get it's just people being like, we need to go, like we need to move, we need to do these things.
Yeah.
And it's a very different sort of thought
Atmosphere.
process. Also, Boston loves to say that they were the first in everything because they really were. Like they're really old,
Right?
and absolutely everything. It's like this was the first place to blah 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 blah. This was the first time that somebody blah 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 blah. And it just like it gets so old so fast.
Right.
You're like,
Just
we
like
get it,
it's
you're
fun to
old.
visit, because when you visit, you're like,
Yeah.
the Boston Massacre, the Boston Tea Party, cool.
Yeah.
But then you live there and you're like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel
I'm
like when we were
over it.
there and we did the tour, like I was done. I was like, all right, cool.
Like, yep,
Check.
it's a place.
Like, it's a place that you check a bunch of things off a bunch of boxes, and then you're like, all right,
Well, yep,
next.
been
Like-
there.
Like, where do I go now?
And yeah, and it's really for some people. Like I know people who even came from Washington that really love Boston. They like the way it looks because it does
Yeah.
feel very like East Coast, all the brownstones and all that, and they like that vibe. But it's just not exactly for me. It's also there's like over 60 colleges in the city.
Wow.
Like in the greater Boston area, there's about 60 colleges.
Is that a lot? Because
So,
I feel like there's a lot of like random colleges in a lot of cities. Like you've got all like
No,
this
it's
is
insane.
Everest, this is Pima.
Like Seattle has 30. I don't know,
Yeah.
actually. That must be a lot.
It might, but I really think Boston is like one of the number one places, like concentration of that. So what you get is just a lot of students and a lot of like everybody is highly educated or becoming highly educated in like in the higher ed
Right.
realm. And And so it kind of, I don't know, it kind of creates this like microcosm of like academia, not just in the school, but in the wider city. And it can, I don't know, it can be kind of
what's it like? Because I mean, I went to college while working, and
that's right. Good times.
It was in actually getting into my major and around the people. I was going to be an electrical engineer, and the more and more people who like aren't in your major get weeded away as you get farther into like different classes. And the more I was left with those people, I was like, man, I just don't want to be in an office with so-and-so every day of my life. And it kind of like, it led me to this like, man, this is not what I want to do. Did you feel that at all? Or did you have like an encouragement of like, oh no, these people are like really, I
love the law school community.
They were working hard on their degree, so I'm going to work hard on my degree too. Or was there just like, oh, get me out of here?
I think it was probably a little more of the latter. I think every law school is different, but also law schools are very similar, and they can kind of attract similar people. But I can really only speak from like my experience in law school. Obviously, I have like some really great friends that came from that experience. So I can't say that like nobody there. I didn't get along with anybody there because clearly that wasn't true. But I mean, I think my experience in law school did make me want to pursue perhaps a way to do this job without only interacting with attorneys.
Oh, that makes sense.
Nice.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I really don't like it. I don't like just being in a setting with only attorneys. It is not fun.
Yeah.
You get into like these, like the way that attorneys talk. It can just
it's just very specific. Yeah.
I can't even.
And it's hard. Like, obviously everybody has come to law school with a different set of experiences, and some people come to law school having had like a whole other career and then gone into law. So the conversation sometimes can bring like a diversity of thought, but overall, like when I'm just talking to attorneys about something versus like in my job, I barely talk to attorneys ever. I really talk to these people in all of these different parts of the company, and they do all these different things. It's a lot easier to come up with like interesting solutions and bring in all these different perspectives that can just make your job easier rather than just everyone kind of thinking in a very similar way because we've all been trained and taught to think like that.
Right. So kind of on that note, we joked at like growing up that like part of the reason that you were a lawyer is because of how much you love Matlock. Right?
Wow.
So
it's not a joke, sir. It's not a joke. That's real.
Okay.
My earnest feelings.
But then we get to law school. We get after law school, and you're not Matlock. So did you like at what point did you say like, okay, I'm not about online. I'm not about the why did I say online? I meant courtroom. like at what point? At what point did you like get into the like I don't want to be in the courtroom. I want to focus on like I like legal matters. I like the discussion of legal things, but I don't necessarily want to be in a practical. What do you call that even? I guess what do you call that?
Not a problem.
Yeah.
So
let me learn you. I believe it's called law-splaining.
Divided into like two main areas. So you have litigation, and litigation is what you think of when you think of like courtroom arguments and those sort of situations. And then you have transactional work. I almost totally forgot the kind of law.
You're allowed.
So transactional work tends to be more of like the contracts and negotiations and all the kind of like behind the scenes legal stuff. Like it doesn't involve arguing in a courtroom. That's
Gotcha.
really kind of how it's divided. So yeah, I didn't want to be Matlock. First of all, Matlock, I love Matlock. Matlock in the show is great, but Matlock is like a private defense attorney.
Right.
Oh,
Like,
right.
he's not like a DA, like working for the people in the courtroom. He like is
Right.
a private defense attorney that like rich people can pay to defend him.
What a
Which is
life.
why in the show he's like able to take on all of these like crazy pro bono cases and help out all these people that like never can afford to pay for him.
Oh. Way to
So
be,
yeah,
Matlock.
I didn't. Matlock is great. I didn't want to be a private defense attorney. Not my cup of tea.
Right. Do you want
but-
to when you get as old as Matlock?
No. I don't. I had in one of the things you can do in law school is called moot court, and it's like moot court. And I think on Friends, somebody, I think it's like Joey says moo court, and that's what I've called it for years.
Is it
not
bovine
moot court.
related?
Cow related.
Huh?
Is it bovine related?
It is not. Although I'm sure you could find one that is. It's pretty much like a like mock trial, but it's not trial. So there is mock trial. You can do mock trial, which is exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Fake trial. And if you want to be a trial attorney, then you usually do that. Once you get like trial is usually kind of like some of the first level, you know, when you get in the courtroom, and then the next level up, you can appeal a case, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you appeal a case, that's the appellate level.
Whoa.
And most moot court competitions, because they are actually competitions, it's kind of like debate, I guess.
Yeah.
Like moot court competitions are the appellate level, and so appellate level arguments are usually an attorney. You have like your remarks, but the judges can interrupt you at any time and ask questions.
Oh, weird.
That's
I
like
thought
debating in a way.
appellate was like all written at this point, or is that? Am I thinking of different things? Like the appeals court?
No.
Or is this different than appeals?
Appeals court still has like you go to court and you
You appeal.
You actually
It's a lot-
can argue
It's a
things.
lot different. Yeah, it's a lot different because once you get to the appellate level, which is why it's such a common thing to do in law school. When you get to the appellate level, you're appealing on the law. You don't really argue about facts at the appellate level. So the
Right.
reason why it's like good practice for lawyers is that you have to argue the law, so you have to kind of get the law and be able to explain it and answer questions and all that jazz. It's kind of like improv,
that
but in the
jazz.
courtroom.
Now
Except
that's
you,
my
except
cup
you
of tea.
prepare for it.
Yeah, prepared improv.
Well, yeah, you were.
I hope my
remarks.
attorney's not improving.
But like you might be. You
Oh.
prepare your remarks and you prepare for it, but like the judge can ask you anything. So
Gotcha.
it really is kind of like you sometimes have to just make up an answer that you may not have prepared. Granted, you like should probably kind of anticipate like what they might ask.
Yeah.
Regardless, I did this in law school.
I think it sounds so
did
fun.
moot court. Was required to do it my first year of law school, was fine there. My second year of law school, I did it again, and I think part of it was just like me not really wanting to do it, but it was not as good, and I realized that it just wasn't for me. I was like, I don't like having to stand up there. I like self-critique way too much after, and it just like becomes really frustrating.
Yeah.
And it's honestly, it feels very similar to like when I used to be in plays with you guys.
Yes!
And like
Theater
before
kids!
you go on stage, you know, you're like so nervous and you're like, oh my gosh, and you're just like freaking out, your heart is racing.
Yeah.
And then you get out there, you do your part, and you come back and you're like, yeah, that feels great. When it came to moot court stuff, I was like freaking out, sweaty, like peeing 5 million times, and then like going out and saying my piece, and then sitting back down and like not feeling good about it. So I was like, I don't think this is for me.
Yeah.
When the stress is that high, you're like, yeah, I would rather have my stress go down, be like lower levels on a daily basis.
And some people love that, and I just am not that person.
Right.
I also realized in law school that some of the things that I really love about the law is the like advising and counseling portion, and kind of what I call like education sharing. It's, you know, talking with clients and people that have questions and issues, and actually being able to like do my best to explain exactly what's going on and, what direction they maybe should go and what their options are. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And I also do really enjoy the writing component. I like reviewing contracts. It's weird, but I do.
I mean,
wait, what?
There are people that enjoy that.
Because you have to have that specific jargon.
Yeah. Definitely have to have the jargon.
It's like a puzzle. I think it's like a puzzle. And I like that a lot of contract negotiation processes happen in a red line in a Word doc. And I like being able to kind of see what the other person's thinking and talk to them. I enjoyed a little bit more the kind of work that leads into more transactional legal work than I ever really did the litigation side of things. I may end up in the courtroom. I probably will. I can't, who knows?
Hey, there's always the future.
Not for me right now.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that makes sense a lot of the times because a lot of the, there's kind of a game to it, right? You have to figure out what somebody needs or what somebody what's going to get them to where they want to be. And kind of solve the puzzle as opposed to just kind of arguing against somebody else where you could do your best and somebody at the bench level could just say, nope, they win, as opposed to building that relationship, building that trust in that person so that they can listen to you when you say, hey, this thing's going to keep you out of legal trouble. This thing will lead you to legal trouble. You should do the one.
Right.
And then,
seriously, it's that proactive legal work that I like a lot more. I feel like litigation tends to sway more towards reactive legal work, something has already gone wrong and then the lawyers have to get involved, versus a lot of the work that I do, which is more on the transactional side, is how can we keep this from being a problem ever?
Right.
Before ever getting into a courtroom, and I like it a lot more.
Cool.
That's awesome. And I was going to say, I don't think we ever actually explained where, what you do exactly.
Not specifically, no.
Everyone knows that you're a nonprofit, part of a nonprofit organization. But then what is a day in the life? What's your official title, I guess, is a good starting point.
Is it?
Oh,
I think so.
Sure.
What if your title has nothing to do with the thing you do every day?
Well, maybe. We'll see.
I've had plenty of titles that don't have to do with what I do during the day. And it's all right, well, call me this. But really,
really, I do this thing.
I don't know. So, drill master. Potato picker.
True.
Fish boy.
Mine pretty aligns with what I do. I'm a legal fellow, so I'm actually just doing a 1-year fellowship.
Fellow.
I'm a legal fellow.
It spells it out pretty clearly that I am doing the law. And I
as a fellow.
I am the life. First of all, I work at a nonprofit called Year Up. Not Year Up, Year Up. I have to really pause in between those words.
Yeah, you do.
It's so easy to say it and have people think you work for yours.
Yes, I am on the what is the European Council?
Yeah, I work for the UN. Yeah.
EU.
I work for the EU.
Yeah, I do not. I'm not that cool. But I work for this nonprofit called Year Up.
I'm gonna post there. Just yearup.org.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
we just got a new website, so that'll be even more exciting.
I'll throw it in
the chat.
In the chat.
Ooh.
It's really cool. We're an education workforce development type nonprofit. We have kind of our bread and butter is a program that students 18 to 24 can apply to. Typically, they have just a high school diploma or a GED. Sometimes they've been kind of in and out of community colleges, sometimes not. And they apply to our program, and it's 6 months. Currently, it's 6 months of what we call learning development. They're in the classroom learning skills related to a specific track that we have sort of specially selected the track so that they align with the sort of jobs that are in demand right now.
Genius,
so
actually.
Yeah, it's 6 months in the classroom, and they're learning professional skills. How to send a professional email, what a business document looks like, all that kind of stuff. And then this internship at one of our corporate partners, and we have I want to say almost 300 corporate partners. About 40 of them are Fortune 100 companies, like the really big, important kind of corporate entities in the country. And our students are able to get 6-month internships and, with the goal that they're able to sort of be converted either in their internship placement or find an actual career at the end of the year. Our goal isn't to get these people into just jobs. We want these young adults to be in careers that they can actually like move and grow.
You don't want to see them again, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've done my job if I never see you again.
You do your job.
Yeah. And the average starting salary for our students is, I believe it's $42,000 a year, which is a really good starting salary for folks that don't have a 4-year degree but have all this training. They're able to get into these roles. So it's a really cool nonprofit, also doing really, I think, really important work in a system that needs important work. Kind of the sort of corporate and opportunity structure in America is lacking in a lot of ways, and I think it's doing really important work in getting young adults that have all this talent but don't have opportunity, just giving them the opportunity. Aww. And then they just go off running. They're incredible.
That's so cool.
So it's a really fun nonprofit to be a part of, really cool to be, able to be an attorney in a setting like that. It really is an honor. And my day to day, I do work with the students sometimes. I'm a part of one of we call them learning communities. I'm a part of one of the learning communities. So I get to interface with the students and see the program in action, which is really cool. But my day-to-day does not really involve that as much. I am much more on the behind the scenes, I guess, making sure that everything's working together. So it's a lot of contract work. It's a lot of just random questions from people, can we do this? Is this something we should be concerned about? So it's a lot of relationship building with people, so they know to come to me and to just ask me questions. And a lot of advising and counseling and doing the legal research and then coming back. And it spans a lot of different areas of the law, which is also part of what I love about it. I'm not kind of just stuck doing trust and estates forever every day. I get to do a little bit of a lot of things, which I enjoy in my work. So variety, it's a very kind of each day is different. It's one of those.
Nice.
Well, what's a variety in my job?
So and maybe I missed this a bit. So you're getting kids up the corporate structure. Are there specific companies then that you're working with on that? Because I remember one thing that I kept running into and continue to run into up until doing all of my own stuff was, I'm sorry, you don't have a degree. This is as high as you go. I'm sorry, you don't have a degree. This is as high as you go. And I'm like, I am literally already doing that job, so just give me that job with that pay would be really nice. And they're great. This is corporate policy. It's come
on,
why is this policy? I literally am the guy for the job. I do the job. And so there's a lot of places that I've just kind of left because you run into that wall and you're like, all right, well, next, and you kind of move on from there. Is that something that gets weeded out at the corporate partnership level, or is that something that gets kind of ignored because of the fact that they're working with you, or Year Up specifically?
That's a really interesting question, and I'm glad you brought that up because that is honestly one of the biggest issues in what we call sort of the opportunity divide. The opportunity divide, as we define it, there's probably a video on the website if people want to check it out. Definitely check it out. It probably explains it way better. But the opportunity divide essentially is, this chasm between this workforce that's just ready and hungry to do whatever, to learn what they need to learn, to work the jobs. There's so many young adults out there ready for that. And then on the other side is all of these jobs that are available. I mean, obviously now we're in COVID, it's a much harder thing to say, but there's these sort of what we call kind of mid-level careers. They're not entry level. They're not I have a graduate degree in something, but they need just a little bit of training, but they don't need a 4-year degree in order to do these jobs. There's actually a ton of them out there because employers have a hard time finding people. They're either overqualified or underqualified. So we call it an opportunity divide. It's just this workforce available, ready and available, just needs the sort of
bridge,
minimum, like the training they need, just the bridge to get across the opportunity divide. And one of the big issues is exactly what you talked about, Blaine, with a lot of companies, a ton of companies, I'm sure a lot of us are used to this, just automatically put that a 4-year degree is required for like almost any job.
Absolutely.
And you're like, there's no reason. Like there's so many of those jobs that don't actually need a 4-year degrry, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
It's like training, like they don't need that.
Yeah. It's like, I need a degree in order to like what was, I think the most egregious one for me personally was the higher level management at Target. And I'm going to put higher level in big air quotes, like to be anything, anything over a manager of like
one of the sections of Target. Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm trying to remember because there were like the section management.
Right.
And then whoever's like right above that. So like if someone's like, they're in charge of the cash registers, but then there's somebody who's in charge of like the cash registers, the front end little restaurant
like front
thing,
of house and back of house kind of thing.
And then like all of the clothing had its own manager, and then everything that's on linoleum had its own manager, and then there was one manager over them. And for that level, you needed a degree. And I was like, I need a degree to be in charge of all of the clothing that comes into Target. Is that Mosimo? Yeah, sure. Get it on the shelf. Like,
need a degree for that statement.
At what point is there not just training on how to read like a P&L and how to move on from there? And find me the degree that shows you how to read a P&L. Like,
you need a business degree for that.
Like,
no, I mean, it's pretty straightforard, honestly.
It's ridiculous. Honestly, it's just really frustrating, and it is honestly a huge issue. A big factor in sort of all of the like disparity statistics we're seeing. Like it's a huge factor in that.
Right.
Actually, our CEO just did an interview with CNN, I think yesterday or today, and he talks about it in that. So if people want to check that out, his name is Gerald Chertavian, probably also on the website, easier to spell. But that is gonna take like CEOs and HR executives and people actually going through and doing the work and and reanalyzing all of these positions and be like, do we really need to say 4-year degree on here? Because the other issue is there's so many of these companies, right, that have like software that reviews resumes. And so if they put in, we need a 4-year degree, and somebody submits a resume that's probably chocked full of relevant experience but doesn't have the degree, they're automatically going to get weeded out by these like algorithms.
Yep.
So you're losing potential talent that could actually be like really prepared for your job if you're just saying like, this is something we need. It's definitely a challenge. And so when we're working with corporate partners, I assume that that's like a part of the conversation if it happens.
You would think.
And if we get people hired when there is normally a 4-year degree, it has to come up in conversation. I would assume people would make like temporary exceptions maybe with our hope and goal that there's more of like a systemic change within them.
Yes.
A lot of the corporate partners that work with us, I mean, they don't work with us for nothing. They have to they pay to be a part of the program. Like they're invested. And so usually it's a much easier,
ask when
easier time to like talk about it. You know, it may not, it's not like we're never going to say, don't work with us unless you do that, because we're still a nonprofit. Like we still need these internship opportunities for our young adults. Like we still want to work with companies, even if they have those policies. But the goal is that through working with us, they'll become more aware of all these issues, and we can give them like answers and tools on how to fix it.
Right.
That's really cool.
It's like blow them out of the water with our amazing talent and be like, clearly you need to change some things, because here's all these like incredible young adults that would just be ready and waiting to work for you if you remove some of these barriers.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, because I feel like a lot of people are understanding that like college is so expensive, and it's kind of becoming like less and less of a seemingly social requirement. Like it used to be like, oh, you have to go to high school, you have to go to college, this is the destined career path. And now that's changing kind of with like advancements of the internet, and everyone just kind of building up their own businesses from the ground up. Do you think that's kind of like like, I don't know, the divide between like needing a degree and all this, do you think that's going to change just because of the cultural shift and also because of what you guys are doing? Do you think it actually will happen?
Because of you.
Because of you.
You did this. Yeah.
You did it.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. I think there are so many more organizations out there that whether they do exactly what we do or something different, but more kind of like hands-on focused training programs, I think are definitely cropping up in a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that in addition to the internet and us being able to see people that are literally creating their own career without a 4-year degree, I'm sure that's all going to make a difference. There is still this understanding in a lot of places where it's like you still need that 4-year degree.
Well, I mean, obviously, there's like a base level of knowledge that you need in so many things. So like you must know X to ride the ride. And I feel like that's what the purpose of the degree used to be. But now with the way that a degree functions, where you have so many electives and like your major classes, and then like what you're actually learning in class day to day could be so drastically different from what you actually are performing on a day to day.
Absolutely.
They kind of, once you've made it past like the basics of that, I like the tech school model, like the vocational, where it's like, oh, hey, you want to be a programmer, here's a programming lesson. And I feel like that's where the internet is starting to take over. When a business accepts a Skillshare as a valid educational component to your history, or says, hey, here's what I made from the ground up on my own, learned how to do it all online. Those kind of things in lieu of, a 4-year degree will be kind of that next step of like, hey, you graduated high school, you knew you wanted to do this, so you focused on it. You spent money specifically on learning how to do that job specifically. Yeah, you're clearly dedicated. You're clearly putting in the thing. And it's just going to take the first, companies that say, hey, this counts as experience, or this counts as the education that we're looking for, as opposed to just saying 4-year degree.
No matter what.
There are even job postings that I see when you look at them that don't even say relevant 4-year degree. It just says 4-year degray, and you're like, so
why?
I'll get a 4-year and 4-year degrees. Like.
Yeah, there's definitely some really interesting articles out there about this if people have like more questions or curiosity around it. But there is a lot of this idea that like a 4-year degree and going to college is like socializing people to like be professional adults, and it's there that like in a lot of positions they're like, that's why they throw it on there, because it's like, I know kind of a minimal of what that person is going to be like if they came out of a 4-year degree, like 3-year program, versus like somebody coming from a different place. But like, that's not a reason. It's like not a legitimate enough reason to like do that at all. I think,
especially like you were saying, like when they've got like the algorithm that is like saying, hey, this person should go or this person shouldn't go. Like that I think needs to change more than anything. And considering how much data everybody has, like Google knows how much this person knows about whatever they're studying or whatever they want to do.
You think so? You think Google knows that?
Easily.
So Google knows how much I know about Photoshop?
Yeah, they do, because of every time that you want to do something on Photoshop, what do?
I Google it. Dang it, that's part of Google.
You Google it. And so your entire like educational history is now a whole train of Google searches.
It doesn't mean that you effectively learned it. There's no testing.
Terrifying.
Exactly. There's no
maybe you
testing.
Watched it and you didn't learn
but
anything.
At the same time, that's what the interview is for. That's what the relevant project is for.
So how about this? Like in interviews, you kind of have like a quiz or like a test that you go through for the job instead of just like
a hands-on test would be fantastic. Easy.
But that's actually is kind of a movement that a lot of companies are going into, that have those jobs that like can be tested in that way, like practical skills sort of testing. But it is starting to happen more. There's a lot of different ways that people are kind of approaching fixing this problem, and that's definitely one of them. There's
That's awesome.
I can't remember one of the companies that's doing it, but people are starting to do that more. It's just a lot of the sort of resume review and interviewing. It just, I mean, it takes time, it takes money.
Oh, it takes a lot of time.
So it's definitely, there's, a lot of sort of work to be done and figuring out ways to make things like that more efficient, but still more making sense.
And something so small as like for when we use Indeed postings, Indeed has a driver proficiency test that we have drivers take. There are some dumb questions on it about like long haul driving that we don't do. So like, what do the different, the diamonds that have colors that tell you what's in the van? Like, what does the yellow color mean? Or what does the green color mean? It's like, it doesn't apply to the job we're hiring for. So, we kind of ignore a lot of those questions, but the proficiency of like, here's the address, what street is it on? Like that kind of stuff where it's like you're giving somebody some kind of test. So like it's
practical.
It's being baked into these application sites. And so I think as they get better at honing down of like, oh, this person got hired in, places like Indeed, they're like, oh, this person got hired onto this job and they kept it for years. Kind of what was their proficiency level? What questions did they get right and wrong? Okay, what did they do in their past? So again, it's taking all of the data that they already have on all of us and just saying, oh,
this was enough for this position.
This led to this position, so let's
Wait, you're
put
saying
a
that they actually
proficiency
do that?
test.
Do they do that already, or you want that to happen?
I mean, they kind of already do it because, like, I have an entire like, if you've got an Indeed profile, and your history shows that you would be good for my job posting, it says suggested applicants, and I can send you a request to apply. So these sort of things exist, but moving them up the chain, I think, is kind of what the bigger need is because so many of those mid-level positions that you're talking about are usually getting hired from below or direct from college outside in an internship or something like that. So moving those into some of those online postings could be, kind of a first step, and then they figure out, oh, these people are proficient at the job for long periods of time.
Let's suggest this one.
Exactly.
I know this kind of is like some of a segue, but like I'm glad America is like moving forward and like Europe is available and like
Europe's available.
Europe.
It's a hard one. It's like an internal in-office joke concept.
Europe. But I'm glad these things are available in America. We're always like kind of checking our system and like how it's working for people. This isn't working anymore. Things are changing and we're adapting. But like, just to kind of think about Japan for half a second, like to literally be like an English teacher abroad, you need to have a bachelor's degree.
You need a
Even if you're a native speaker of English, it's required, which is so stupid in my opinion. But it's like it's like their mindset of being like, yep, 4-year degree, no ifs, ands, or buts.
And
otherwise,
it's the same thing with a visa. Unless you're coming in on like one of those low end skills jobs, you have to come in with a 4-year degree, period. And it's like that's just kind of the requirement to get into the country, and in any way other than tourism.
Which is weird.
And so you have this culture where everything is about that degree.
Yeah.
And you have all of these depressed kids who end up shut in at like high school level because they like just
horrible.
realize that everything's like locked into that, and it sort of builds on itself there. But
yeah. I'm just kind of glad that America's, like we're growing, always. But it's like in comparison to some countries, I'm like, man, whoo, open up, y'all.
Yeah.
We're trying. There's a lot of work to do here, but we are trying.
In Europe.
In Europe. Yep.
All of the Europe. I love it. So obviously, to become the wonderful and experienced lawyer you are, you had to go to the law school. So I was kind of thinking that a lot of, I know that you went through law school and like I heard about like some of your experiences, but a lot of people like kind of have like various questions about it. Like, what is it like? Is it actually really as hard as people think? Is the bar super crazy? Like, what did you have like a really good experience?
Yeah.
For law school?
Now that you're on this side of it, right? Looking back,
was it
as rough as it felt while you were doing it, or did it feel rough while you were doing it?
It was horrible, and it still seems horrible to me. It really is. I think, as hard as everyone says it is. Anyone who says law school is easy, it's just rude.
Yeah, rude.
It is, I mean, like weeks of one of your 4 classes giving you like 200 pages of reading that you have to be responsible and potentially on call for. It just like the way, it's just a lot. It is genuinely a lot of work, and it also is just, it's just,
yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, man. It's just like the environment.
Is it designed for you to become a lawyer, or is it designed to see if you want to be a lawyer?
Oh, it's like a test of trial.
That's a good question. And also, you're asking the right person, because I wrote this like huge paper. We were required to write. We called it the upper level writing requirement. Mm-hmm. Required to write like a 30+ page paper about some sort of legal topic to graduate. So, of course, I wrote mine about legal education so I could complain about legal education and get credit for it.
I love it.
That's so genius.
I feel like that's such a thing that we do. Yeah, we're like, oh, this is the thing we get to do? Let me tell you what you're doing.
Yeah, let me slip that in there.
So my paper was more specifically geared towards people call the way that, like, specifically first year law school, it's called 1L if people don't know. Like, it's 3 years in law school, it's 1L, 2L, 3L, as if you are on an elevator. So the 1L courses and more of the sort of like big, what you would see in TV, like a professor in like this huge amphitheater of everyone sitting around, like just gripping in fear that they're going to be called on. Like, that's what these classes
the worst
are.
Classes in the world.
Yes. Yeah. So they call it the Socratic method, like the way that it's taught. But my whole paper was about that. I don't agree with that. I don't think it's necessarily the Socratic method. I was taught the Socratic method in undergrad, and that's not what it was like in law school. It's a very different experience. But the way that it's set up, if it teaches you how to be a lawyer, that's such a good question. I think it really depends on how you do it. So it taught me how to be a lawyer because I very intentionally prioritized experiential learning experience. Experience learning.
So much experience.
Journey. So I did a lot that was the sort of.
Oh no! Oh no! You cut out on us.
Oh no! Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back. All right.
Are you back?
You said I did a lot.
I did a lot of stuff that was the sort of like hands-on learning experience, and the practical skills and learning all of that, because that's how I learn and what I wanted, because I wanted to learn how to be an attorney.
Yeah.
So for me, it did 100%. And the sort of like in the classroom time can be helpful when you get maybe into more specific areas of law that you are planning on working in. So like if I want to be an employment attorney and I take employment law, it's for sure going to give me like the basics of employment law and kind of what I need to know.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say. I think there's a lot, people say that law school just teaches you how to think like a lawyer, whatever that means.
Okay.
But it's supposed to it's supposed to teach you how to like break down a case and break down the arguments and figure out why people make the decisions, why people do what they do, what the law is behind it, how that all works. And it's through that it's supposed to somehow like teach you how to think like a lawyer and like ask the probing questions you're supposed to ask and all of that. And that is what people say is like what you're supposed to get out of law school. Like, you might not actually know a single thing about how to do the job you're doing, but you know how to think like a lawyer. You have like that base set of skills that you're supposed to be able to take into your profession. There was this really interesting thing, though. I think it's fascinating. Probably not. I'm sorry if I do. Literally anyone who's listening. We love it. Law school started out as a vocational school. It was taught like a vocational program. It was like how to be a lawyer. And through this sort of shift, it was kind of propelled by a few people. One of the primary people was His name is Christopher Columbus Langdell. He was one of the first deans of Harvard Law.
Not the boatman.
Yeah.
Not the boatman.
Not the boatman. Got it.
No, but yeah, there's another side story.
Who names their child? Hey, you know what I'm gonna name this kid? Christopher Columbus. Is that his first and last name? No.
Is this his name?
This is his first and middle name.
Columbus Langdell. Yep. Yeah, kind of.
He's got to carry my middle name.
But there was this kind of idea that they were like, well, when a lot of other sort of disciplines were becoming more scientific with the way that they were teaching and approaching, the education of it, they were like, well, we want the law to be more scientific and taken more seriously, and this, something bigger and brighter. My cynical view is we wanted to get paid more, so we're going to do something different. But that's, who knows?
How can I legally make more money?
Yeah, the thoughts of a lawyer.
So it really, that sort of revolution of taking what was once literally just learning how to be an attorney and apprenticing, doing all that, figuring out how to do the job, shifted it into something that does look a lot more like just our typical education system, because they wanted to make it seem more scientific and legitimate in the way that it was taught and presented, and shift the whole field, I guess, into something different.
Right.
Law school once was, for sure, just a vocational school that you learned how to be an attorney. Nowadays, you have to be a little more intentional about making it work for you.
Do you have any insight as to why it's so different state to state?
For law, you mean?
Yeah, and this is kind of a twofold question, I guess, because the only reason that I kind of understand that it has so many differences is from YouTube lawyers and Twitter lawyers that they'll chime in on something, but they chime in on something relative to their state, and there's a different definition for that term in a different state that the actual case is taking part in. Why? Do you have any it seems like such a stupid thing. Hey, we're going to train somebody with this job that, might be really hard to get if they're in a specific area. So, they really have to learn the local stuff. So we'll have a giant test to make sure they learn the local stuff. But all the local stuffs are going to be different. We got the RCWs here. We got the Revised Code of Washington, and a definition in our RCW could be different than a definition in Boston. I mean, other than different people making up different rules, was that ever a class or something that you got to go over? Because it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Also, welcome to the bane of my existence. Our nonprofit operates in, I think we have employees in around 25 different states. So whenever I do legal research or I look stuff up for kind of company wide, I have to do research in 25 different states as well as with the law. I mean, just welcome to the federalist system that we exist in. It really is just how it works. I think there isn't a specific class on that, but it comes up a lot in constitutional law. Obviously, constitutional law issues maybe, but it's more prevalent, and there's sort of the division between what the federal government does versus what the states do, and so you get a lot of those differences and a lot of those divides in how things are defined or how the law is enacted, just because it is the state's power to do that, and each state is just going to do their own thing. But there's sort of, the conversation is always well, if it wasn't in the state's power to do that, it would be in the federal government. It's really one or the other. So would you really want the federal government doing it versus having your state doing it? And, something might be defined different, in Massachusetts versus Washington, but they're not the same state, and they operate different. They have different industries. They have different people there. So it, in a certain way, it is incredibly frustrating for those of us that do sort of think about and work in multiple states, but at the same time, it's just kind of, and even how the system works. It's what the system is.
Even in the same state, because I remember, what used to drive me nuts is I used to work with firearms, and the definition of possession was physically having access to a firearm.
In a house, even
if it's in the house, if it's in a safe, and the combo to that safe, you are in possession of that. And it was always this weird, but
That's
it's
weird.
not theirs. And in your brain, you're like, but it's not theirs. Yeah, but they possess it because they have like access to it.
But why don't they have that be two separate terms? Like possessing is like you own it, it's yours, and then like access would be like just
It's just weird things. And then I remember like possession elsewhere in Washington law also meaning like it's you own it, but someone else is currently controlling it. So like you have possession of this car, but they are the one who has controlling possession or something like that. Like they specified it, and so it just like it's so annoying.
So much of that is just that's two different areas of the law, right? So they could use the same word, but it can mean a very different thing in a different area of the law. Mm-hmm. But laws get made at different times. There is not a person that exists that just like goes through the laws of the state at some point in time and just like makes them all make sense together. That never happens. Like laws just get created.
Which is crazy because they've been created for like 100 years, Like
we should make it all make sense.
Think about it. It would be such a pain. My God.
That's what interns are for. Right? That's what interns are for. Free money intern.
pay those people. It's an actual job.
Real quick, we've got an AMA question from Kez. How safe does Japan feel when visiting? And
I'm assuming.
Maybe you're interested in this as well.
Sure.
It feels very safe.
It's like incredibly safe because if you can think about, our police force obviously has a lot going on right now, but their police there seem like the most docile and like calm and welcoming
They
people.
essentially have two police forces. They have the police force that sits in the Koban that has an unloaded gun with the ammo like in their pocket. Just in case there is like a robbery, they can, respond to it. But they, when you're going up and talking to the average like police officer, the beat cop, I guess we would call it, but they sit in like a little police box.
Yeah,
they are there just to help. They are there if you lost your wallet. They are there if you lost your phone. They're there to give you directions to a place.
It's so true.
They will recommend things for you. They're
safe.
just their entire job is to help people. That's what their entire
and maybe
role.
Resolve problems if they come up.
Resolve small disputes, I'm sure. And then they have the actual like task force where it's like, oh, we're getting called in. There's a robbery. There's drugs. There's, whatever the event may be. They have the task force that shows up who is specifically trained for that event. It's sort of like how we have SWAT teams in America. We have this team that's designed to respond to a high level threat environment. And then our other force is supposed to be more of the just everyday, maintenance of the law.
Supposed to is a good word.
Yeah. But even that gets more and more redefined.
But even besides the police force, like Japan is so safe. People
are so safe.
I mean,
we get more
stuff.
people that go out of their way to walk us across the city to go to places that we want to be.
It's so nice.
Well, you'll love this one. And we may have told you before, but we were on our way to the Studio Ghibli Museum.
Yes.
And we were like I was looking at the map and I was like, okay, it's over here. We're over here at the bus stop. If we cut through this park, we'll make it. But at the time, what we were still learning is that when you look at a map in Japan, you need to pretend that every block is a mile. Because you're like, oh, this park's only like 2 blocks wide. I'll make it.
We can walk
it's
2
like
blocks.
a 4-mile walk by the time we're done with it. And like,
they're not consistent.
Like we get like halfway through and we're like, I don't know which way's up right now.
We're exhausted.
And this
walking
little
this
tiny Obasan, this little Japanese grandma comes over and she's like, don't put this going like this. She's like, where you go? And we're like, Ghibli Museum. And she was like, oh, kochi. like and waved us on and walked us to the Studio Ghibli Museum. We see Totoro there at the ticket booth to like take our tickets, and we turn around to say thanks, and she's gone. She's straight up gone. We got spirited away to the Ghibli Museum
by the cutest old lady.
By Tokyo Obasan.
I think they like hired out a lady just to like get people to the museum,
just to wander through the park to bring people in.
Don't you want to go to poor foreigner? You want to go to the museum, don't you? Of course, that's why you're here.
Well, and even follow up to that as far as safety goes. When we were driving last time, there are these little rest stops, and so you just pull off on the side of the freeway, and you can sit and you can eat, and there's like a little info area. You can get gas, all that kind of stuff. And we were resting there, eating a little lunch, and then we got in the car and started driving. And Katie was like, I don't have my wallet.
I'm so
I don't have
mortified.
my purse. I
left
don't
my
have
purse
anything.
there.
She starts freaking out. She's crying. Like, it was awful.
Because
it was awful. And I'm like, calm down. We're in Japan. We're in Japan. It's okay. And she's like, no, it's going to be gone. And we literally were 45 minutes away, which meant we had to drive another 45 minutes to reach the next exit that would let us do a U-turn to go the other way. So it took us like an hour and a half. So this thing was sitting there for like 3 hours practically. And we walk in and she walks up and they're like, here you go. It was just there. Someone had turned it in. Someone saw her purse and everything sitting there, turned it into the info center, and the info center was like, here you go.
I left it on a chair.
And we're talking like a virtually abandoned side of the road gas station,
there were tons of people there, though. Like, literally anybody could have picked it up and just like, that's mine. But like, there was like tons of people there. But that's mine.
But yeah, so it's an extremely safe place, and the culture is designed to be safe, as well as the police force that is there to help out is also designed to be safe.
Yeah, they're very social-minded.
Unless you're getting the cops called on you and that task force shows up and you're not Japanese, then it's not as safe. They have like a 99% conviction rate, so like if they said you did something, doesn't matter if you did or not, and you're probably gonna get convicted of doing that thing. So
there's a lot of
only
discrimination
becomes
for white people
unsafe in the point where you get somebody called on you. But that doesn't happen very often.
But as far as like, stolen goods and I don't know, everything else, it's safe. Go. Let's live there.
No.
Can we though? Can we just live there?
We can reside there sometimes, but I don't have a 4-year degree.
That's right. I don't have a 4-year degree either. I'm too dumb to live in Japan. Oh, that's hilarious.
What do you follow any social lawyers, or do you try to keep that out of your social sphere of enjoying time on YouTube and Twitter or anything like that?
I don't, just because it's my job and I don't like listening to more of my job after my job.
That makes sense.
Yeah, usually my entertainment is a lot more dumb.
It's the K-pop.
Yeah.
I watch a lot, like I watch almost exclusively like cartoons, whether it's like anime or just like American cartoons. Nice. Like I watch children's programming because it's like so much
Phineas and Ferb.
Just like,
it's so relaxing.
A little adventure time. Like I don't want to watch something serious after work.
Yeah.
But I have seen you send me things all the time.
Yeah, plain
lawyers that you watch.
I did that thing.
And I usually send back comments. I don't know if you ever actually want them, but I feel
I always want them.
If you send me it, I feel like
if I send you, and this goes out for everybody, if I send you something, I'm asking for your opinion on it. Like, I want to know what you think about this thing, especially if it's your wheelhouse, quote unquote. Like, when I'm like, oh, hey, check this thing out. Like, this is a lawyer. What do you think about the way that he's even if it's just the way he's presenting, his ideas on something. I'm still curious about what you think about those ideas, the way he's presenting them, whatever it may be. Because I feel like that's important. So like anytime you reply back, I'm always grateful for that, because it's always like, because I feel like too, like the whole point of like the legal system is to have people fighting about what something means. Like, what does the word possession mean? People need to fight over it to figure out what the answer is. Like, that's kind of the way it was designed.
The part I don't like. I will say I do appreciate it a lot, because I think like maybe the first week of being in law school, I remember sitting there and thinking, I have never heard of any of this, and I shouldn't have never heard of any of this. It's like
taxes.
I mean, truly, but yeah, actually, it's just, I mean, the legal system we all live in, we all work in, we all hopefully abide by. Like it is there around us constantly. It's the matrix of our world, and yet there's like
minds
there's so much that people just don't know about how it works and what it means. And even if people, I mean, even if people read over, like someone could read over a contract, I could read over a contract, like just a normal lay person could read over a contract, and like we're gonna have very different points of view over what these things mean, because I know what it means in practice, and I know how it works.
Yeah.
And so I personally just think that's wrong. There's so much about this system that I think shouldn't be just kept in this like ivory tower of law school. I think there's a lot that people are fully capable of understanding, and they just need like maybe a little explanation. So I really appreciate the attorneys that are out there making videos. It does get tricky because they have to do what I did at the beginning of this and like make sure people know it's not legal advice. It's not like an attorney-client thing, because there's a lot of duties that we owe clients that can become very complicated if something like that was to occur. But I love that they're out there anyway, like discussing these topics and talking about them, because I do think they bring up a perspective that people just normally don't have unless they've gone to law school or like learned all these things or done whatever. So I really appreciate it. I think it's a lot. I think it's a realm of like online sort of education, like educational things that has been largely not even broached because people are concerned about the like duty and ethical issues.
Yeah.
So people haven't really done it, but I think there's clearly ways that we can, and that we can get that information out. And I appreciate that they're out there doing it. I just don't want to watch it.
Yeah. Well, and that makes sense. I mean, it's not it is still edutainment, so
exactly,
like there is the entertaining factor for me with a couple of the different ones that I watch,
the way they react,
the way they set it up, kind of see what one perspective is versus one of the other perspectives. So I get that, where it's like, oh, I kind of already know this thing, so I'm not like, you don't see me out there watching any like edutainment about my job or jobs like, or anything like that.
Watch
like
Amazon truck stuff.
Or anytime I'm doing like stream stuff, it's like I need to know this specific thing, how to do this specific thing. I don't really watch a lot of the edutainment parts of it.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you're not in it, that's when kind of the entertainment aspect, but then it is also educational. It's like a Nova special, you know?
What's
like,
Nova?
Nova? Like on the Discovery Channel?
I have no idea. You're enlightening me as we speak.
Oh no!
Wait, you don't need to bring it up. We just explain.
No, it's important.
Is it important?
Yeah.
Noelle, is this important?
I don't know if it's as important as Blaine is going to make it seem.
Oh, great.
But I'm good at making it seem important.
Like, wow.
But he is good at making it seem important.
How do you not know this very specific thing?
If it were not for Nova and Nova specials, we would not have Ants Canada.
Oh,
we would not have Serpa Designs. We would not have these various YouTube channels that have these, and now we watch the ant, like the David Attenborough.
Oh, he has that kind of voice.
You and your ants.
Like any ants. Of these things.
I know. I'm so sorry, Bill. I don't know. By Nova. Bill. Shame. Ring the bell or whatever it is. Shame.
I'm not gonna shame you, Katie.
But thanks, Noelle.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Somebody.
It was like an educational series. It's how you learn about black holes. It's how you learn about space. It's how you learn about all these things. So anytime you watch like a YouTube video that's like, here's how black holes exist, or here's what happens if you go into space. Here's what like any of those like minute physics or all of those type of things are because Nova was a thing, because we had this weird sort of like entertaining educational content.
Wow. Say that 5 times fast.
Whether it was on the original History Channel giving you some historical stuff, whether it was on Nova giving you more science stuff, whether it was on like any of these things.
I'll have to look at it.
And then
it's like PBS.
We didn't have cable, so we watched
PBS.
We watched PBS.
I know PBS.
You triggered Bill.
PBSkids.org.
Oh, no.
Triggered him. Yeah.
Okay, well I'll check it out.
Unexplained Mysteries. I'm pretty sure was they weren't the History Channel, I think.
Even though I've never seen it. I understand.
Yeah.
It's like it's like edutainment, like you were saying.
Yeah, it's edutainment.
Okay,
the Crap
so
Brothers,
Nova.
right?
When your science teacher, you've probably seen it. When your science teacher wanted to play like an up and coming science topic video, it was a Nova Channel special.
Yeah.
Like, that's
perfect.
what you watch.
String theory
Perfect.
brings on the truth
I
about
think I
the
watched
base
the
of
string
the.
theory in physics.
Yeah.
Mr. Campbell.
Wow. Okay. Perfect. Well, now I know. Does Morgan Freeman always narrate them?
No.
Okay. You sounded like Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman only narrates penguins. That's all he narrates.
Oh, he narrates penguins. Oh, the
and
penguins,
Prison
yes.
Breaks.
Oh, yes.
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan.
You guys, I've really been leaning to this side of the camera really intentionally this entire time, and none of you have remarked about my background and people upset about it.
Okay, chat, like, check this out. Do you guys see the background? This is so incredible.
I was kind of waiting for someone in chat to bring it up, to be honest with you. That's why I've
Bring
enjoyed
that?
your 1/3.
Yeah.
Do you want me to bring it closer?
Sure. Show the people.
Yeah, you can bring it closer.
So this is,
You clearly don't want that to happen. Do you want me to bring it
No, you can bring it closer. I wasn't sure that it needed to. I feel like
it's
so
bigger than I thought it was.
Oh, it's so big.
Oh, it's so big.
Why are you looking at No, yeah, keep her on frame.
Okay,
there we go.
So this is another relative of yours.
This is my cousin Brett.
Yes.
And my sister Noelle.
And they have this
in
annual
Christmas
tradition.
present pajamas.
Ugh, onesies.
Christmas present onesies that year.
It's so beautiful. And you guys haven't even seen the blanket yet.
Why did you start that?
Yeah, how did that even come about? It's incredible.
So one year, I think it was my senior year in college, me and my group of friends were like, I loved awkward family photos forever, and they all knew that, and like I used to take evenings when I needed to decompress and just look at awkward family photo pictures and laugh to myself. It's fine. I did have friends.
Well, you were telling your friends about this thing that you used to do, so yeah, you had friends to tell that to, at least.
I did have friends to tell too. So we were like, let's take a ridiculous awkward family photo together. That would be so funny. We were like, yes. So I was like, I'll get a Groupon for JCPenney.
Groupon,
and it'll be great. So I bought the Groupon and had it. And we just like, our schedules never lined up. We were never able to do it because like none of us we were in different places during breaks and everything. It just like it didn't work out. Mm-hmm. But I had this Groupon and it was expiring rapidly. And I was like, I need to use this Groupon. Who can I still want to do this. I think it would be so funny. Who can I choose? Obviously, our cousin Brett. And I explained the whole thing. She was like, absolutely, yes, we're going to take these ridiculous photos. Our first year, I always get a Groupon for JCPenney. We always go to the JCPenney portrait studio. And
the highest quality.
Each year is like a different theme. The first year, everything was much more like matchy-matchy. Like we had like the same dress, same tights. We had like cat flats.
Oh, it's so good.
And it definitely depends on like when you go and which photographer you get. So the first time we went, we got this photographer that had been shooting like a bunch of children all day. And we were at the very end of the day, and it was like February, so it wasn't that busy. And she just took like 5 million photos of us because she was just actually enjoying herself.
Nice.
For like the first time in the day, because we were like, we want this to be ridiculous.
Yes.
Really so it's now, I think this past year was the 5th year of doing it. It typically happens now because I'm away. It happens during Thanksgiving time, because that's when I typically go home. And I still get a Groupon every time. We still go to JCPenney and do it. We might be shifting that up in future years. We'll see.
What? Why? Why would you do that? What do you mean?
Because we just want a variety, man. It's the same backgrounds every year.
Oh, they don't switch them up every year?
You've done every JCPenney background at this point. Used every JCPenney prop.
They don't have a budget for that?
We really have, I think, used almost every single one of their props and definitely all the good backgrounds. So we might be switching that up.
I don't even know.
But it definitely depends.
I don't even know if Yen Louis does Groupons.
Oh, no.
I don't know if you're going to find it.
They do. They do, but they're much more expensive than the JCPenney.
And then they'd probably be confused. They'd be like, you want to do what? You don't want a nice photo?
Is this a prom photo? Is this homecoming?
Yeah, we already, like, barely stick out at the JCPenney ones when we go. It's like, oh, they're clearly doing a thing, but maybe they're not.
You barely stick out. What is this? Does Walmart have a photo booth?
Oh, if they did, we would have been there before. It's pretty fun. Let me think. I'm trying to think of the themes that we've had. So the first year it was just like matching. Gosh, we did. Oh, we had a conjoined Christmas sweater.
I remember that one. I remember most of them, but yeah.
That one was so good.
And Brett is a lot more insistent about wearing the outfits out. And like continuing the charade as we leave the portrait season. So we had to like wear the conjoined sweater for a long time.
That's great.
That was one year.
I think the shift on the way home.
The next year, I think, was the one that you guys joined us for. That was Turtlenecks and Chains.
Turtlenecks and Chains was a ton of fun. And that photo one still hangs at the Bellevue Keller Williams.
Nice. As your photo.
It always gives me a new profile picture. Yep. Every year. We had the present onesies. And this past year, we did like an 80s
rockabilly,
mom.
I'd say.
We got horrible wigs and fake nails.
Yes.
That was a ton of fun. This next year, we'll see. It's a secret every year. We release it December 1st as if it's an album dropping, as if we are Beyonce. And it does not matter at all to like anyone other than a small subsection of our people.
But those people are so excited by it.
They are loyal fans.
They count down. You've created a cult following.
Yes,
we have. It's
really
awkward family photos. It's the best.
Yeah.
Oh, Bill.
I have a random side story about Brett that I just wanted to share with you, but if you had a question.
Oh no, go for it.
Brett. We haven't really even touched on hardly any of the questions that we want to ask because the conversation's just so fun.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, that's the best.
Okay. This I think is just funny. Maybe it's only funny if you know our family. I think it's funny regardless. But so about a year or so ago, some friends of mine asked me to officiate their wedding. And so I had gotten ordained through the Universal Life Church because it's the easiest thing in the world.
So great.
You literally fill out a form as if you're signing up for a newsletter, and then they say, congratulations, you're ordained. And I like paid extra to get the certificate.
I feel like you would need the certificate just to be like, no, I am ordained.
Look at this.
I thought so too, but then I realized
when you show them the email that they send you. Check my email.
Exactly. So that happened, and then about I want to say maybe like a month ago, maybe not. Our cousin Brett. She had friends that asked her to officiate their wedding. So Brett was asking me about it, and I told her where I got ordained and everything. So she is now also ordained.
Oh, that's fantastic.
We are Reverend cousins.
Yes.
Reverend cousins sounds like the next TLC special.
Oh, wow.
That is exactly what I said. Actually, word for word. Mama, that's exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we are very similarly brained. That sounds so great.
I think it could be a hit in coronavirus times. We just get like a weird, like Ghostbusters kind of station wagon hearse thing, but it's like full of wedding stuff.
It has like cans on the back.
Yeah, we like drive around the country just officiating weddings as the Reverend cousins. Like you open up the back and it's like a little wedding. Like
it has just like a pop out tent that just like comes out the back so you can.
And like a nice wedding arch, like.
Yeah. Exactly. It's got the arbor built in with the.
You can pick either one or both of us. Like we could do it like each saying an alternate word, or you could just have one. I think we're on to something.
You've got to have that intro trailer where it like fades in, fades out with every scene. So like it fades in, like a footstep comes down and fades out, and it fades back in. And there's like the cans clanking behind the thing, and it's like
on the open road.
And then at the very end, you guys both do one of these things.
Yeah, like that. Reverend
cousins.
We do like with like little flames.
Oh yes! Oh, I'm so into it.
It does like the thing where like the camera's like really low against the ground and it's like moves really slow and then it speeds up and then it slows down and it speeds up and it slows down right on your faces as you guys are going like yeah. Like,
just like TLC to do.
I know the TLC.
You could produce on the TLC.
Going to the chapel is the background music.
What about
the chat is asking for the photos, so at some point I guess we'll have to post turtlenecks and chains in the Discord.
Gotta put it in Discord.
Oh yeah,
we'll definitely.
I mean, I can run and grab one because they're all in Mom's office. Do
you have one with us in the office, or are they singular? Oh yeah. Go grab one. We'll run the show for a minute.
All right, hold on.
Hold on.
Let me take off my Britney Spears.
Dead air.
Britney Spears.
Dead air.
Dead air now.
Dead air. Having to talk on our own.
How are you guys? Thank you so much for being here, just hanging out. We're just having a good conversation, doing it for later.
Kind of fun.
I don't know if anybody had questions for lawyer Noel that they wanted to ask.
I put it on Instagram.
I put it on Instagram.
Did you follow up with the Instagram stuff?
Mom Mare asked one, I believe. You have to go to the actual stories, I think. But anyway, this is refreshing. We're sticking up. Oh, Bill, we're glad we could be here for you. Be a little refreshing. Ignore work. They'll clean themselves. It's a hospital. Everybody washes their hands.
Is it? Does everybody wash their hands in the hospital?
Their hands, Katie. Let me tell you.
Oh man, we need to get people on the bandwagon. Wash your hands. Come on.
Wash your hands.
All right, there's a lot of them. Are you guys ready for a little show and tell?
You're gonna do
a very like in Zoom party thing to do is show and tell right now.
Show and tell. Great. I'm into it.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Hold on, I'm ready. I'm ready now. Kanpai.
Kanpai. I think I have
it charged. My drink is almost gone.
Need a recharge.
I do. All right, here's one.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Right there.
Oh, look at us. Look at us. Oh my gosh, Noelle, I love your face in that.
I forgot about your eyes in that one.
Just like, like so annoyed.
You don't need to do screen grabs, Bill. Bill, you don't need to screen grab. We can post these in the Discord.
I love that it just says yeah at the top.
This is my computer background.
Oh, that would get me motivated every day.
Yeah, I mean, I love
Katie's like 80s boss, like the tiger boss, like going on.
What do you mean? What's the
just
tiger boss?
The hair and everything that you've got going on.
Oh, down the middle and like so. Oh yes.
You mean this here?
Yes. Oh man, watch out.
I believe we also created like backstories for all these characters.
I forgot our names though. I won't lie. We definitely had names.
Good. Sorry, this is a calendar. That's why I'm like, it looks like I'm flipping through comically large photos. Because
they are comically large photos.
Like mom needed to see it, so we blew it up real big.
Mom.
Oh, here's one of you guys. That's cute.
Yay!
Blaine, your perfect like cheesy McCheese smile. Oh, it's so good.
What are you talking about? Cheese smile? That's my natural smile.
The open mouth, like
ha ha.
Oh, okay. Here's the August baby. That's Blaine's inbox.
Oh, that's the picture.
The photo.
That's the photo.
That's Blaine's background.
That's my professional photo that I put everywhere.
Do you have a LinkedIn? Is that your profile pic?
I have a LinkedIn. It is not my profile pic.
It says, here's the thing. I'm business because I'm wearing a turtleneck. My hair is kind of short. I've got this cool watch, but I'm kind of tough. And I like parties because I got this chain.
Chain.
Don't worry. I'm married. So
back off, ladies. I'll swipe you silly.
I catch these bows. These bows. That's what girls say, right? Catch these bows.
Is that a thing? Be like, I'll catch you.
About to catch these bows.
Wow. Oh, let's see this one.
Oh,
now that's a catcher right there.
I truly think Katie and I shined brighter in all of these.
I mean, you guys were red.
Yeah, you guys are kind of more like cool tones.
Brett and I were more muted with our tones to make you guys stand out more.
Yeah, the background.
It was really self-sacrifice. That's what it was.
Sure.
Let me find mine, because this was...
Oh,
Is that your current law photo?
please say yes.
It's not, but it should be.
All right, we're switching.
that's so
we're
good.
switching all of our LinkedIn to turtlenecks and chains.
More turtlenecks and chains.
Everybody now.
Yep.
Oh, thank you for having those available. That just made my day.
This one is my absolute favorite. This is not a part of our turtlenecks and chains edition. But this was. Do you see? Can you see? Can
Wow.
you see that?
Are you guys?
Can you see it?
Are you
Can
guys?
you see it?
Are you wearing the same shirt?
We are both wearing gray turtlenecks and black pants.
They look like they mesh into one.
It looks like you're wearing one giant forearm shirt.
No, but Brett was like, "I'll give you a piggyback. That'll be funny." And I was like, "Yeah, it will, but don't smile." So we are completely straight faced as I am like on her. And I just thought that was great.
It's the best.
That is great.
Oh man, it's a lot of fun. I think everybody, I sent those photos from this year out to like everybody in my office, like my entire HR team saw it, and
Wow.
I think I inspired some people to be a little silly sometimes. you
Yeah,
know?
life isn't that crazy.
Yeah. Groupon, go be ridiculous.
Go be ridiculous.
I definitely think the same thing about my realtor photo, because there are people who are like,
so serious.
oh my gosh,
like,
who is this guy? And like, I'll go into the office and be like, oh, it's you. like
You're the guy with the
because the
hair.
pictures are on the wall, and like,
Yes.
it's just like a thing that people get to see. And like, not so much anymore, but like, there were a couple times where I went in there and people were like, wait a minute, you're the guy with the watch. And I was like, yeah, it's me.
The
And they're
guy
like,
with the watch. Wow.
it's like, yeah, that's
Really,
me.
I had to think a little bit before I sent them out. I was like, is this really what I want my like professional persona to be? I'm an attorney. I'm supposed to be like all official. But I was like, no, this is pretty much it. Like, this is fine. I think this is
I would say, along with how we've kind of criticized the collegiate system, that we also need to criticize the workforce system, where it's like, no, you've got your work personality that's a serious man making serious jobs, serious woman, serious worker
Everything's
person,
serious.
and you're doing this is your job persona, is important, so it's serious. People like people who can have a good time.
Yeah, more
And
relatable.
if you can take a dumb photo of yourself and say, hey, look at this, I was silly, they really connect with that, and they really want to hang out with you after that. And
instead of like those Instagram models and like everything's
they're gonna make a
stuff.
community BK calendar.
Yes! Oh my gosh, you guys, we
Everybody's
should definitely
gonna have to go to a JCPenney near them and take a photo for the.
or even at home.
Also, I would love that, but that is not a BK calendar.
No.
That is a Noel and Brett calendar.
It's true. Inspired by.
We're credit where credit is due.
That's
Oh,
right.
I'm totally with you. I think people need to be a lot more kind of like silly and authentic at work. After I did that, it all of a sudden everyone in HR like knows who I am now.
Oh, 100%.
Knows that I'm approachable and friendly. And it's so much easier for me to do my job when people actually are willing to come and just ask me questions. Like, that's how I'm actually able to solve problems before they become problems. If nobody brings them to me, I don't know.
That's so
So
true.
I actually think it was like a huge, important, like professional move to do something just silly like that, so people feel comfortable talking to me, and I'm not just this like stuffed attorney sitting here in a corner.
And you don't have to wait around for like the Christmas party to do something stupid or silly that people then remember you for. You know,
Something you regret.
I don't regret any of the Christmas parties I've had, but there was definitely like a tone shift after people partied with me. And they were like, oh, this guy's awesome. You know, like they're like, oh, as soon as you're outside of the workplace environment, people get to see a little bit of what you are. And I feel like that's one of the few things that really social media and the way that people are able to see you outside of work has really helped, is to really humanize people and say, oh, this person who is my boss or my coworker or whoever they are, you know, they seem a bit like stoic, standoffish, but they really enjoy kayaking, or they really, you know, they're always out there going on a run. Like they've got this persona outside of what I see at work every day that is really like worn down and doesn't enjoy it. And so being able to take what used to be the Christmas party persona and turn it into you can see me for who I am. I think that's important. I think it's important to know what people are and what they're about. Like everything I've ever done in my life is about figuring out like who somebody is, what they want, and what they're about, so that I can help kind of meet those needs, right? And so having that more accessible, getting people out of their shell a little bit easier kind of helps those conversations of like, oh, what do you do? I enjoy working, and I also I crochet sometimes. But like what you don't know is that they do like crazy felted like animals or something that they sell on Etsy or something.
Felt things.
Yeah, they do felted Pokemon, and you're like, oh, I love Pokemon, I love that thing. And so like I feel like being able to open up on that level is super important in any scenario.
Yeah, and that like even when I was like just a supervisor at a restaurant, but like me just like trying to like ask people like, hey, like what do you actually like to do, and like have a relationship with them and seem more like, I am one of you guys. I'm not your boss, even though I'm your boss. Like there's like that fine line though, right? Because you still have to right. Yeah, exactly. I'm the cool boss. But like there's still that fine line because you still have to make those tough decisions.
Right.
And like, maybe to fire people and stuff like that. So like you still have to have that good mesh and flow to it.
And that's something that
I still think all of that goes over better though when you actually
if you know somebody, because
develop a relationship with that person.
Yeah.
Like, everything will be so much like I get that it in your mind it's like, oh, it's hard to like tell my friends like no or whatever, but I think it's just so much easier to have those conversations with people if you actually have invested time into learning who they are and also shared who you are.
Yeah, well, and it makes the coaching conversation that much easier of, hey, I like you, I really enjoy hanging out with you, so here's what I need you to do to continue being a part of the company or a part of this workforce. Here's where I see that you're falling behind. I know you're not that person, so what can we do to get you past that? So it helps the coaching conversation. It helps the, if you, like, let's say somebody is just straight up not a fit for something. Like you put someone in a position that's not what they're for. You know that that's not what they're for. You know that their build, whatever personality thing about them is not designed for that. You can then be like, hey, you know what? I know this isn't you. I know this doesn't work. Stick with this with me, and I'll figure out something else for you. So it helps you, create that connection that lets you also help someone on their next phase, as opposed to just saying, get out of here. You're not helpful to me anymore.
Right?
So
they're not just a cog. Too. They're like, actually have skills and could put somewhere else. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yay.
What's one of your questions on that long list of things?
It's not. I don't like long lists of
it's
questions.
It's not that long. This made it seem long.
Did you specific?
One of them. How are you?
Hey.
Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah. Established.
Okay, sorry. I asked for a question and then I interrupted you.
One of them was why nonprofits? Was there something specific about nonprofits? Because we touched a little bit on your trip to Mongolia, but we didn't really go into too much about what you were doing there. But I feel like from the outside, that trip really kind of set you onto a path where every time I talked to you about an internship or anything like that, it was with a nonprofit. It was with somebody that was altruistic, helping something else. Wait, when did I daddy Blaine?
Oh, they're saying because like you're a boss, you're like, oh, buddy Blaine becomes in like the
daddy
boss
Blaine.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
I don't. This is not the episode to have your sister on.
No, that's chat.
Daddy at all.
It's chat. Mama Bill said it. Mama Bill said daddy Blaine.
Say it another time.
The following comment was gross. Don't say that. So
yeah. So fair.
Whoever said that agreed.
You agree with Bill. You agree with Bill. But yeah, no. So kind of why nonprofit. And then we can also kind of go into like what you did in Mongolia, because again, I feel really like
cool.
That experience after talking to you about it kind of really led into that. Maybe it didn't, but
yeah, it's definitely, I feel like Mongolia was like so long ago and like it wasn't even real. But
Mongolia is not real. Flat Earth confirmed.
Perfect. Sound in the comments.
Do not. Anyway, I actually did an internship. So the program I was in undergrad required us to do 2 different internships. We had to do a local internship and then an international internship.
I'll speak up a little bit more.
Huh?
Speak up just a little bit more. You're mumbly.
Maybe I might move away from my face.
Oh, there we go. Brittany!
Make it a bit more of a mole, maybe. Maybe that'll be better.
Make it more Brittany. Yeah! I like it.
Sorry, I need to side story. My gosh, I was doing a Jackbox game. Jackbox games with some people at work. It was like an HR thing, and fun. I got Britney Spears riding an eagle, and it was like the drawing one. I had to draw Britney Spears riding an eagle, so I tried to draw an eagle, and then I tried to draw Britney Spears as just like a stick figure with hair, and then I tried to draw a snake over her shoulders. Nobody understood it.
Yes,
it's okay.
We would have.
Anyway,
I would have thought Blade Runner stripper. That's what I would have thought first, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, it was tough. That's fine. Side story.
Brittany riding an eagle.
Nonprofits. So I did an internship locally. I went to Seattle University, so I was in the Seattle area. Did an internship with a nonprofit there that surprisingly also worked with like young adults in like learning leadership skills and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
And that was a whole year long. I think the program I was in was just kind of geared towards connecting and working with nonprofits. Nonprofits are just easier to sell, like they need help. They always need help. So it's easier to get an internship at a nonprofit because you're like, I'm here to help.
You're like, sweet, you're in.
Yeah. Truly can be like a sort of an easier in. And the program was just had more connections with nonprofits. But and then in Mongolia, so that first internship I was doing like PR and communication stuff. And also helped like kind of draft some policy things, which was cool, I guess, and kind of legal related, which was fun. And then the internship in Mongolia, I was working for a domestic violence nonprofit there. They were an incredible nonprofit, but
for people that don't know, Mongolia, what is it? They're the number 1 like country for domestic violence, or at least reported.
Yeah, it's really high. It's part of just like the way that the living structure is in Mongolia. Like you live and travel and are with your family constantly, and typically in smaller spaces, and alcoholism, like substance abuse, is really high, and so there's a lot of factors that kind of come together and create kind of a microcosm of stuff that leads to a lot of domestic violence.
Well, and I feel like we felt like a little bit of that, like stateside. Like if you look at the numbers, like like right now, right? Like everybody's got to stay home, and guess what? Alcohol, like a liquor store, that's a mandatory. It has to stay open. AA meetings, not mandatory. So suddenly you got access to liquor and substances, and you're home more. And we saw a huge increase in domestic violence that like people I don't know is really being reported in that same way. So it makes sense that a country where that is already the norm is going to encounter that. And
it's true.
Yeah,
they do have good vodka. They do have good vodka. I will say that much.
Yeah, they do have good vodka.
My gosh, the vodka was so good. Oh man, I miss it so much. Anyway, nothing to do with the incredible work this nonprofit. So I was like a fundraising intern. So I just like researched fundraising opportunities, like grants they could apply to, money they could get, and like cataloged this whole list of things. It was honestly pretty challenging. I spoke like maybe 10 words or more of Mongolian, like not that much. Ooh. Mongolian is its own language, and they use the Cyrillic alphabet. So I learned how to read the Cyrillic alphabet, but that only helps you to a certain extent. You
can sound it out, but that's about it. You're not understanding the sound you're making.
Well, a lot of the words are kind of like, I think this is probably pretty similar in Japan and a lot of countries. Like a lot of the words were English words, but they were like spelled in Cyrillic.
The loan words. Okay.
Cyrillic, you could kind of piece together like, oh, this is this word, like this English word.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Do you remember any? Wait, hold on. Do you remember any like specific words, like hello or anything like that? I'm just curious.
Do I remember? I don't think I even remember hello. I remember thank you and goodbye are one of the two. Bayarla or bayarta. One is thank you, one is goodbye. I can't tell you which one at this point.
Just saying both. Just saying both. Thank you, goodbye.
I did. Every time I left a place, I was like, and they were always like, oh,
you're speaking my language.
You did. You
just do try my language. Why are they Italian?
That was all you.
That was you.
They are.
They are definitely not Italian.
Hey, you're speaking my language. It's okay. I don't know why that's my immediate indigenous person voice.
It's fine. I can get to like the actual answer to the question. I'm kind of talking in circles, but I've done a lot of work in nonprofits. Pretty much most of my professional experience has been in nonprofits. If not nonprofits, it's been sort of like public service, kind of government stuff.
Right.
I need a place that is driven by a mission that I can get on board with.
Oh, that makes sense.
I can't, like, it's just, if I'm going to be in a place that's not that, I need to be really clear, like, internally, like, why I'm there and what I'm doing and the purpose it's serving either me or my general goal of whatever.
Right.
I need that desperately, just to feel sort of like motivated to get my work
the big
done.
why. It's the like what's the purpose, right? Like even something like when I was in real estate, every day it was like, why am I in real estate? Why am I helping this person? What is the purpose of me looking at this for this person? And so like connecting to the person's need, and if the company, like in that instance, the company is me, like I am the company that's trying to figure out what the need is. So like if you're working for a company, you still need to have that need connection. And I get that. Like anytime I've been in some kind of corporate structure, you always hate it. You're always like, we're just doing this because some the corporate dude wants this number. Some dude wants this number emailed in a specific way. That's why we're doing this, right? And it's just like without the why,
the big picture,
it just feels like really crappy work. So I get that. I get that.
Yeah, and your why. Actually, we bring that up at Year Up all the time. Part of our program is hard. Our program is really tough. We say we have our model is high support, high expectations. So our expectations are high, and we will go at great lengths to support you in however you need to make sure that you're able to meet them. But we're not going to lower the bar for you because we know you can meet that.
That's
as
awesome.
long as we are here to help and support you, we know you can do it. So it's tough. It's really hard. And we talk to our students all the time about what is your why? It's literally actually exactly what we call it.
That's awesome.
Know your why is a whole part of real estate.
Why are you doing it? Yeah. And it could just be like, I want financial stability. I want to be able to provide for my family. Like all of those are important things that can help
security.
Motivate you.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I that is definitely like a part of it. But I think I thrive in situations a lot more if I'm really aligned and I can see directly like the impact that I'm having.
Yeah. So you're not just doing a thing and then, I did this thing and this is a good company. Like you need a little bit of that feedback that says, hey,
I affected this specific person's life.
This specific thing is being helped. Okay.
That's awesome.
And I get antsy about thinking about not being a part of something that's actually like making a significant change in something that I think needs to be fixed. Like it's, I could do it for sure. And I think there's a lot of training and learning that you can have in settings, in all sorts of settings and stuff that would help you, prepare for something else. But there's just so much out there that's broken and that needs to be fixed. And I just I get really antsy about not being a part of it. Especially, I think especially as an attorney, I'm like, there's a lot that I can do that I literally have been told I have the power to do, and so it feels bad to not be.
So do you ever have this feeling? And one of the things that I love about one of the attorneys I watch for Kata Law is that he says specifically, lawyers are just people. Like, they're just a person who went to a class for a certain amount of time. They're not super knowledgeable. They're not immediately right just because you ask them the question. Do you ever get any of that, like, imposter syndrome where you're like, God, let me get back to you. Like, and then you're like telling somebody an answer and you're like, this is the answer to the best. Like,
of my
obviously
ability,
everything you do is for your client's benefit, right? So first you've got your, I don't know if you have an actual fiduciary duty to it, but like the duty to your client of like, you've got to be as correct as you possibly know possible. Yep. Like, does that ever weigh on you in a way where you're like, this is as right as I think I am, but man, do I just feel like some dude who's throwing out an answer right now?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Probably more than I should.
We won't tell your boss. We won't tell your boss.
I mean, so I currently, and for a significant portion of my fellowship at Europe, have been the only attorney at the organization. So I haven't always had like another attorney to kind of talk things over with. And because of the nature of my work is so spanned across like a ton of different legal areas, I get questions every day that I don't know a single thing about. And it's a lot of, you really have to learn how to say, not sure, give me a few days and, I'll get back to you at this time with an answer. And it's also being an in-house attorney, like you're running a million miles a minute always. Like things always need to have happened yesterday. And all that crazy stuff still applies to us. So it's, you have to decide, like, I'm going to do this amount of research and I found these sort of sources and they seem really reliable. Like they're from places I trust. I feel like this is probably what the answer is. And then I have to communicate that to folks in a way that makes sense to them and that I think is probably the answer. And it all has to happen within a time frame that like works for everybody. There's all sorts of times where I'm saying things that I'm like, I think this is what it is, but that is my job. Like it's my job to take on that responsibility and to do that. Right. But it really is shocking to me. I think a lot of my sort of like professional career, because I am young, like you get a lot of people, they're not going to defer to you for answers, like when you look young. But I found this like, I found this wild.
I get that too.
Yeah, it's rough. You're like, I know what the answer is, and people are just like, no, you wouldn't know. It's frustrating.
So real quick on that, because you and I, being siblings, have similar features and all of that. How old do people think you are?
I don't think I've asked a single person. I think they know that I'm young because my title is also like legal fellow, and I look like this, and we have video calls constantly. So I think like people know I'm young.
Well, no, that's not. I guess that's not the question. People look at me and they're like, "Wait, how old are you?" And I'm like, "How old do you think I am?" And I get like
I hate answering that question.
And I get like 23 to 24. Like people consistently think I'm 23 or 24, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Have you ever heard a 23-year-old who knew this much about this topic? Like, come on, bro. Like, at least use your brain.
Come on. I get stuff like that too.
Obviously, people think that they know you're young when it comes to a lawyer, but do they ever like think that you're like right out of college or like whatever it is?
Yeah, I haven't gotten that. I think because so much of what they see in my like email and everything signals that I am an attorney. I think I don't always get that, but what has been weird is that people so quickly do now, because I am a lawyer, even though I am still in my 20s, like they do defer to me for things a lot more than ever before.
That's awesome.
And it is good. It is good, but it's weird. And it's a lot of
It's like a
well, I'm
deep
not an attorney, so I'm not
responsibility.
going to think about this. And you're like, no, you should still think about it. Thank you. that
What
you
does
are-
my attorney think about said problem?
Right?
Attorney, what do I do? Aren't I 26? No, I'm not 26, Steam.
I know. Wow.
I'm turning 30.
The big 3-0 coming up soon, guys. This old crotchety man here. Soon we'll have to replace your knees and your hips.
Yeah, I got
How
10.
old do you think I am if they think you're 23?
I got 10 years on these knees. I got 10 more years before I need new knees.
Counting down the days.
I am actually.
Tie it back to what you said originally, that one of the lawyers you follow said that attorneys are just people. You know, we don't necessarily know. We aren't experts in everything. It does happen all the time at my work. I'll be like, if you just need, I feel like people ask me questions that aren't at all legal questions. They just want an attorney to like affirm that what they're doing is good or right.
Right.
And it's been interesting because it's kind of this whole other part of my role is just like to be the attorney and to be like, yeah, that sounds good. Like, there's absolutely nothing at all related to the law that you just sent me, but like, sure. Like, that
we can do that.
Just kind of a comfort.
It really is this it is a comfort. It is. It's like, oh, the attorney said it was fine. Like, let's move forward. And I'm just like, I don't know. Like,
I think it's funny when I get the opposite because I can look at the situation and like make a decision about what I think we should do. And I'll make a decision about like, hey, we should do this. And then someone's like, oh, we should talk to HR. Or like, oh, we should consult an attorney. Or like, we should double check that that's okay. And I'm like, let's do it. Just do the thing that's probably okay. Like, I hate the
high expectations.
Let's go to the attorney. And it's like, I get it. There's some instances where like you should probably seek out legal help before you post about something, or you should probably seek out legal help before you write this thing. But like some of these decisions that people
are they like
bring
really
up,
small?
Yeah, they're like little tiny decisions about like hiring or firing or anything like that. I'm like, just do it. You know, like. It just depends on the situation. I've been in a few of these situations where I'm just like, let's do it. And they're like, we should probably double check with so-and-so. And I'm like, why?
Because you're a massive company. That's why. If it was like a mom and pop kind of thing, you'd probably be different.
I honestly, I think that's part of the job of an in-house attorney, though, is to help people understand where that line is. Like, and to be the comfort. Lot of what I do.
Yeah, and to be the comfy blanket. The security blanket.
True.
That's what it's called. Security blanket.
Yeah.
I am the security blanket for sure. But yeah, I mean, a lot of what I do, if I respond, I'm like, this is something that you can just decide on your own in the future. Like, this isn't really going to involve us. Or it's like being really clear about where we need to be involved versus where other people are. I think that's like part of the educating part of our job is to make sure that people know where that line is. But
I love that you do that.
I think that's great.
I love that you do that because so much of like the lawyery related things that I've ever received have always been, here's the answer and never here's the answer and you could probably just do this yourself next time. Like,
yeah, I mean it's different. Like if I was working for a law firm, right? I mean, not to say this is how it always, like how people are motivated, but like I want that person to come back to me over and over again because I bill by the hour. Like I want that.
Right.
But like my job is made easier if I teach people how to fish. Like I don't want to have to continually do the fishing for you if I don't actually have to.
The incentive's better.
And it's like you get billed by the hour, but at some point you're also getting billed by the task. So if you can take these tasks that people can just handle on their own and have them handle it on their own, it frees you up to be able to take on the more important tasks that you also have to do. Because you're still expected to do those more important tasks. So just say, hey, this is now your realm. Enjoy ruling your realm, and I'm going to take care of this.
The bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other?
Oh yes. I was actually just looking over.
No, I have one.
Oh,
here
you got
too,
a fresh
actually.
question.
Well, this is a fresh.
Kesty.
This is from the internet. From I think actually Facebook. So this one is from Mom Air. What are some different areas of practice? And if you had to choose a different one, what would it be? Wow.
Do you specifically have an area of practice? I guess would be my starting question with that.
She's business law.
I don't really have like a specific area. I do in-house legal work is like what I would call my practice area, but that's literally anything related to the organization I work at. Like practice areas in the law are like employment law, trust wills and estates, corporate law.
Right.
There's so many out there.
Right.
Immigration law. There's a ton. And I think that's actually such a tough question to answer because I'm doing exactly what I want to do. Like this is the exact kind of work I want in a nonprofit, which is also what I want. Like what I am doing is my number one. So truly anything else would be a number two. Like,
who is number two?
Yeah, who's your number two?
It's hard to even think about. I don't know. I think I probably could see myself ending up at some point in time doing something more related to employment law, labor and employment or something like that. Mostly because it's tied to a lot of what I do as an in-house attorney, so it kind of is the most like logical jump. But
would you enjoy that? I feel like a lot of that labor law would end up being like wrongful termination suits or something, like
right
where you're
it's a very human area of the law. Like it's something that literally every single person interacts with
every day,
always. Like labor and employment.
Everybody has to work.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot about it that does feel like it would be interesting and would align in a lot of ways to work that I'm doing now that I find interesting. So that might be sort of a second jump. I don't know. I thought I looked into all sorts of things. I looked into just like compliance, like regulatory work. I did look into immigration a little bit.
I know, regulatory work.
Compliance sounds like the worst thing you could have.
I know, but doesn't it sound like the most me? You know me, Blaine.
Yeah, no, that's true. I
would be the one being like, you're doing it wrong. Here's how to do it right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Not only will she tell you how you're doing it wrong, how you should be doing it, but she also enjoys saying that.
That's true.
Oh,
and she knows how to do it just barely right.
Better.
Just on the edge of right and still makes enough money for the company.
Wow.
I thought I would be great at it.
I think you'd be fantastic on that. I think that goes even deeper into the gamification of law, where you're like, all right, here's what the rules are. Here's what the rules say. No, where between the two can we function that we can maximize our company? Whatever it may be.
Maximize. All right. So
what else do you want to talk about? We got this list of. The list isn't that big. It's only 9. It's 9 major points and then sub points.
On my laptop.
What's wrong with your laptop?
There's a bug on it.
Oh, what kind of bug?
In it, a bug on it.
What kind of bug?
Is it an ant?
I don't know.
Oh man, there's like a bunch of tiny sugar ants that are like out by the boat.
Oh.
That I'm
How
like.
do you know it's a sugar ant? You and your ant.
Because they're tiny black ants in Washington. They're sugar ants. That's just how it works. But we've got to like move like the cover for the boat.
Yes.
And as I was like lifting it to kind of like see what that's gonna take, it's gonna take a lot.
I know.
There were this entire like just horde of tiny ants came out from under it, and I was like, uh-oh. Because I'm standing there in the Adidas slides that you got me, like, here they come. And I just straight sprayed the taro like ant killer. I was like going to get a syrup on a sundae. And then I went back today and they're still there. There's still a lot of them.
They're surviving.
There's like a ton of ants. What kind of bug is on your laptop? The ants.
I really don't know.
Oh.
I don't know bugs. It's a tiny one.
It's Animal Crossing. It's Animal Crossing 101. What kind of bug?
What's the bug?
I don't have new Animal Crossing, guys. I only know GameCube Animal Crossing.
It is pretty cool having it's pretty cool having ants in new Animal Crossing. So that's what
it's cool. Yeah.
How, you really, Blaine? Is this a new phase in your? Do you really like ants?
No.
I beg to differ. I
just find it fascinating that somebody is able to keep and have ants and then also produce high quality YouTube content about said ants.
And not have it be super boring.
Let's all remember how this started. There was a thumbnail of like this cool aquarium paludarium that had half water and like these cool trees and stuff growing in it. And the thumbnail said, "Can my fire ants survive in an Amazon rainforest paludarium?"
Gotta know.
And I was like, yeah, I mean, can they? Like, it was one of those self-fulfilling...
That's what hooked you?
Yeah, it was like one of those self-fulfilling like YouTube prophecies where they're like, will they survive? I'm like, well, I don't know. Will they? Like, that's the Nova commercial. When Nova like breaks away for commercial, they're like, will these ants survive after these messages? Like, you know, except after these messages is 5 seconds until I can hit the skip button, and then I get to watch it, and I'm like, holy crap, this is so interesting. This guy's voice is good.
Gosh, Blaine,
his video quality is amazing. And he's got 2 million subscribers at the time. Now he's got like 4 million subscribers.
You and millions of people do enjoy that, but guess who doesn't? Katie and I.
True that.
You have...
And I'll give a big Kanpai to that. Kanpai. Yes.
You don't have
Ants
to...
are lame. Just kidding.
That freeze frame face is fantastic.
That freeze frame was pretty good.
You don't have to enjoy ants or think about ants to watch these things and be like, this is Nova quality. Straight up, this guy's got a production crew. But he doesn't.
Noelle is freaking out.
Okay. I believe you. You can like them. It's totally fine.
Have you watched one recently?
No, we don't want to talk about ants.
Yeah, you get it.
We're over it.
We're over it.
I'm over it.
I'm over it. Anyway. There's a lot of tiny ants, and they all pour out every time I try to move.
Oh my gosh.
Well, no, it's like...
Stop talking about it.
No, it's every time I try to move the, like, thingy, the ants come pouring out. So I'm gonna have to, like, cut this, like, this railway tie that's, like, keeping the thing down. And I'm gonna have to deal with like tiny ants at the same time that I'm doing that. So like I've got a really fun day ahead of me at some point. Gambarimas, indeed.
Yes, get rid of something sugary.
That had nothing to do. Yeah, that had nothing to do with any of that. It's just like I ran into ants while I was outside, and
what a traumatic experience you had.
Yeah, I did, because they got all up on my toes. Like,
it's true. I hate ants.
Yeah, it was awful.
I had them in my pants.
It was.
I didn't like them. So. It's the truth.
Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, we do.
Questions for you.
So,
has any
ant?
I know, right?
Has anyone ever assumed something about you because you mentioned that you're a lawyer? Have you ever been
like
lawyer
stereotyped?
shamed?
Yeah,
have
lawyer
you been
shaming.
Stereo lawyered?
Yes.
Have you ever been stereo lawyered in a club?
I think so, actually.
Probably.
The minute you say you're an attorney, people are like, "Oh, I like to argue. I like to argue too. You must like to argue." And I'm like, I don't like to argue.
I read definitions.
Yeah.
And policy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Truly. It's like I used to get, I mean, back when I just wanted to be a lawyer and I was like in school and just interested, the minute I said I wanted to be a lawyer, people would always tell me like the worst lawyer joke they'd ever heard. And they're like, this is what I can share now.
You said the lawyer word. I get to say the lawyer joke.
Exactly. I was like, that wasn't permission to ruin my dreams. Like, calm down, sir. Just because you went through a bad divorce doesn't mean you get to say that to me.
A lawyer, a rabbi, and a priest.
Wow. Good joke, Blaine.
Thank you. That was my lawyer
I think
joke.
it's like people think that you argue. People think you're like just, out. I don't know, out for money and
blood
and
fame.
Money. I have no idea. It's people do always assume that I like make a ton of money. I don't. There's plenty of attorneys that don't make a ton of money. Look at any of your local like DAs or anything like that, barely making a livable wage. So that's definitely a stereotype, and like that I
money grabbing,
argumentative, and I think I'm right all the time. All that kind of crazy stuff.
People should know better.
Like for any job you do, there's all of that stuff. It could be worse. I'm not like that, so I usually think if they take some time to get to know me, it'll probably be fun.
Yeah, I get that.
They'll see the truth.
Oh, I do real estate. And they're like, how much is my house worth? Or can I buy a house? I'm like, I don't know, man. That's up to the mortgage company, not me.
Yeah, when I hear real estate, I assume you own a beige blazer. That's my stereotype.
I don't think I have a beige blazer. I have a cream blazer.
Ooh, close enough.
It's
it's
off-white. And I haven't worn it for like 20 years.
Yes.
It might still fit me because of my large clothing purchases from back in the day.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Bill said she's already 2 parts of the 3 people walking into a bar as the lawyer and a minister.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
Now you just need a rabbi curl.
That's so true.
Well, there you go.
I don't think you're allowed to be a rabbi, though.
Yeah, if you're a priest, you can't be both.
I don't think I can. I don't think I can.
I don't think you'd be a rabbi as a woman.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure the rabbi are men only.
You know, also there's just a lot more.
You're also not a Jew. That would be the other part of the.
I'm not Jewish. I'm not Jewish. Yeah.
Pac-Man boss with the bar jokes.
Kanpai. What's up, Pac-Man?
Kanpai to bar jokes.
Okay, so I was watching Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, and he had this segment that I thought was crazy. Like, I've never heard about this until just like yesterday when we were starting to talking. And it's we kind of talked about this off stream, but it's this thing called Clearview.ai. I don't think anyone in chat has ever heard of it.
Oh, don't say that. Bill's in chat.
Maybe.
Bill's heard of
Bill
everything.
knows everything. My apologies,
He'll
Bill.
tell us how it works.
How could I say that? Gee, he says, I've done my research.
You're not rabbi material, apparently, so it's okay.
Sorry, Noelle.
Oh, yeah, I'm not.
But I thought this was fascinating. I kind of wanted like a lawyer's take on like the legalities behind all this. So just to back it up real quick, Clearview AI is like this company that they are using facial recognition to help along like crime, like policemen finding people in crimes.
Using every photo that you upload online in order to build a facial recognition database
from
about
public domain
from
websites.
And they'll argue that, but
yeah, they basically have 3 billion like photos from like Facebook or even just like public websites, Twitter,
Instagram, all that stuff.
This one guy's even like old like newspaper from his local like neighborhood had a picture of him in their database. So they're basically like farming all of these like free photos of you on the internet, and they're using it apparently for like helping find criminals. But I will say I don't know if it was John Oliver who said this or the other podcast that you directed me to, Noelle, but they were like saying that they've also given some of the services to like Kohl's and Macy's. So like they've even given it to companies and stuff like that too. So it's not just being used for like crimes and stuff like that. But so is that even a legal thing?
The retailers, I think the idea was that it would help identify like
shoplifters and
stuff. It all was supposed to be with this like crime solving idea.
But it's just kind of crazy to me. Like, can you actually just like farm like pictures of people on the internet? Is that actually truly public domain? Is that legal?
Yeah, I think there's kind of 2 sides to that. So a lot of this has to do with like privacy law and cybersecurity and probably another person that maybe all sorts of other things.
Well, I feel
I'm not an expert in.
Well, it's gotta have some copyright law on it too, because like if I post a picture, I publish that image, right? So like at some point there is the copyright of the publisher rights too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that sort of thing I don't think would kind of count as like a public domain. So it needs to be something that is like just a bit like there's that component of it, right? So like the legality, you would say like, is this actually public domain? Is it actually able to be used by anybody or accessed by anybody. So there's that question. I don't know the exact answer to it, but that's definitely a component of it. And then you have this other component of, well, what is it being used for? So I think typically in like privacy law, you have both the like protection of just the thing itself, and then you also have a protection of like specific uses of things.
That makes sense.
So, you know, the only time I've really kind of dealt with this at work is like through, you know, like photo video release waivers and stuff like that. Like, when do you really need to get one? When do you not? Like, when, like, employees don't have an expectation of privacy at work. So, like, you don't, for privacy purposes, like, that doesn't exist. There isn't actually this expectation of privacy. However, I am in control of my likeness, and if somebody were to use my face and slap it on like a slogan that I didn't say they could do and mash those together, even if my face was somewhere else, like that is not allowed, because I have control over my face, and I can decide what I'm associated with. That's your publicity right. I don't know if you call it. It's publicity laws usually. So yeah, this thing was super interesting that you sent over, and I really appreciated the podcast I referenced you to. It's called The Daily. The New York Times has a podcast, and they had a short episode about it in February. It really is wild, because this place is gathering all these pictures. So let's say they're gathering these pictures for the public domain, sure, but they're using it for this like specific. The stated intent is that they're using it for this like specific crime solving capability or, you know, tool to help law enforcement agencies and retailers and all these things. But like, it's one of those things where like, I don't know if there's a specific rule for it, you know, but like it doesn't sit well. Like it doesn't seem like what should be happening. So that's why there's reaching out. I mean, the ACLU brought some charges against them, I think. Also, there's some.
Well, and I guess too, like the kind of in that same vein, like if they're pulling pictures off the internet because they believe those pictures to be public domain or public access, like whatever it is, like that would then, at least in my brain, it would say, okay, then Twitter and Instagram, these things are public domains. These are public forums. And suddenly they become completely different than the private companies that they are, right? Whereas like if it's a public forum, they have to let anybody speak or anybody do anything. So if they're going to argue that these things are public forum, then suddenly we're now talking about the publisher versus
like the website.
What is the safe harbor laws? What do those go into?
I don't know.
Where like if the president goes and speaks there, it suddenly becomes a public forum, and anyone needs access to that by definition of that. And so you get into this sort of weird area where if you're going to say that me posting an image online on this specific company's website is the same as me walking outside into a market, where if I'm out in a market and someone takes a picture of the market,
and you're in the photo,
they can use my image because I'm in the photo.
You're in a public space.
Now, are we having to, like, according to them at least, their argument is that that's public space. And so now their argument would indicate to me that you'd have to redefine whether or not a tweet or an Instagram post or anything like that is public sphere. Do you have any thoughts as to like whether or not
the internet
things
should
that
be
you
public?
do online are public when they are, you know, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter? Like these things are so big, they're so widely used, and yet they still are making use of the publisher versus what is that law?
I have no idea.
603 ruling or something, where it said like the internet isn't the same as that, but then it is. So they're able to be private companies. Private company versus a public forum. So like they are private companies, and so they get to like censor and do things, but they also get the rights of a public forum where if somebody says something bad on them, they're not in charge of whatever that person said. So they're able to make use of both. So
it's kind of crazy.
Totally kind of out of left field, I guess, with this one, but like do you believe that Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all these places are going to be subject to more scrutinous regulation because of how public they are, like they're practically utilities at this point? Or do you think they're going to maintain a corporate status, you know, kind of forever?
Oh,
Oh.
that's an interesting question.
Right.
I mean, I like this. That's just like my personal opinion. I don't think. I think they would remain private companies. I don't think anybody's gonna really take it on in that way and really make it public. I will say it's kind of like back to the Clearview thing. I think it's an interesting note that when it first got started and it was first a thing, I believe it was like Facebook and maybe Google and like some of these places sent like cease and desists to Clearview because they were like, no. Like,
yeah, no, these are our pictures. You can't use them.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting because clearly they've still like pressed on a part, regardless of that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if those sort of spaces are ever going to really become like outside of private hands, really. And it's an interesting question. I mean, I think it's something that's like constantly evolving and people are constantly looking at like privacy always. I mean, like privacy is clearly like very much a thing that we as Americans care a lot about. And yet we love these things that like blast all this stuff everywhere and we know it and we accept it. So there's also that kind of side of privacy, right? When you like accept terms and conditions and like you don't read it, doesn't matter, you still accepted it. Like there's sort of this like assuming the risk of putting your stuff on these sort of things and leaving your privacy settings really open and like doing whatever.
Well, I think there is kind of precedent for that. Like the Postal Service, right? Like they are a public company technically. They're a private company that has contracts with the government. They are not actually a government controlled agency. They are a private company. They have to make money. That's why a lot of the postal services on Sundays will do deliveries for Amazon. They are doing, they specifically call it Amazon Day in order to actually like make money as a postal service.
No, sorry.
It's super.
Sunday, the Lord's Day.
Yeah.
Amazon.
Amazon
it is super
Day.
funny. But no, I was interviewing a postal worker who was talking about how like they work on Sundays with this specific. They're only delivering Amazon stuff that day.
Wow.
And so you have this precedent where you have a private company that is operating with a private structure. However, because of what they do, like the mail can't say this mail is not going to get mailed unless it's illegal, right? Like drugs or bombs or anything like that. You can't mail those things, but you can mail anything else. You can mail out propaganda, you can mail out lies, you can mail out truths, you can mail out money, you can mail anything you want from any person to any person unless it is an illegal good, right? And so you kind of do have a precedent where a private company is able to actually have to function in that way,
a public way.
So like I don't think it's too far-fetched to say something like an Amazon or something.
You mean like
like postal. a Twitter or an Instagram or a Facebook could start getting that same sort of regulation where it's like, hey, here's what you have to do now because you are no different than somebody shouting something from a town square or mailing something from one person to another. I guess.
But like I didn't give him the permission to use my likeness for his company because he's making a profit off of my
as far as Clearview as far as Clearview is concerned, that's different. That's different.
Oh, okay.
But I guess the where it stems into Clearview is if Facebook, if Twitter, if Instagram are public venues where here's all the things that you know, it's essentially you being in a town square.
Right.
Now Clearview can use your stuff.
Oh.
Whereas like if it maintains its private status as a private company that you're publishing something on, now it's no longer able for them to be used.
But maybe we could change the law, Noel. maybe we can change it. We can make a difference. Or like, I don't know, because like it's my personal Facebook page, right? Even though it's a public thing, it's like I feel like I own it and I put my specific things into it.
Yeah.
So it's like...
So that's like your house and your address.
There was one story also that related to peer review that I saw that was somebody had gotten identified, like somebody had committed a crime and got identified because their face was in the reflection of a mirror of somebody else's picture that they posted.
Oh man.
I feel like that kind of stuff, like that opens up like a huge realm of things. Just generally speaking, just to your audience, people should always ask before you take photos that include anybody else in them for all sorts of reasons.
Always.
Because you never know why somebody might really need to not post it on what you have.
And what's nice on that is you just need to know the platform you're posting. So like anytime we're in Japan and there's like people around, we're just like, Instagram! And they're just like, yeah, and they're just happy with like an Instagram photo. Or we're like, we're filming and we see someone like YouTube and they're like, yeah,
like,
YouTube.
cool.
Okay, cool. And they don't want to like walk through our like photo or whatever it may be.
Or some people do have their face masks or like they'll like hide their face. They
or
don't
a restaurant. You're like YouTube and they're like, oh yeah, and they like bring you behind the counter and you're like, now I'm a behind the scenes YouTuber.
Oh my gosh.
But Noelle, you're absolutely right. Like this like opens up a whole new can of worms to be like, you could be misidentified from a mirror, or like, what if, I don't know, what if you have a twin
a picture of
and
us
they
that
look
the same?
The
guy that
what if you get square glasses and the computer thinks you and I are the same person?
Well, that's the other thing,
right?
Like, AI is not trustworthy. There's so many studies.
We
out
literally
there
talked about AI in resume. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like but like especially facial recognition, like it's so much worse at correctly identifying people of color.
Yeah.
Like statistically speaking,
yes.
it's not good at that. So if you're using, it's like, it kind of stems into some of the conversations that we talked about. Like if you're using something like a software like that in police departments, it's like
there's going to be a slew of
horrible like cycle.
Right.
But it is, it's this company, this private company run by, in like a very sketchy, like people really should listen to the podcast. Like it's wild, like how it was started and like how little is known about the company itself.
And for how much information they were able to get so quickly. Yeah. It feels like a Chinese like farm company where they're like, oh, we now have all the data. Here you go. Like, you know, like it just is like, where did you get all the data? Like, I spent $2 in Guangzhou, like,
on the black market.
You know, it's insane how easy and cheap that stuff is to get.
That's especially though, it's like you're using something that is kind of like feels like it should be protected, and you're using it also for like a public purpose. And it just seems like there has to be a way to regulate that without just having to take the word of of like one random CEO that he's not going to use it.
Or give it away.
Nefariously.
Yeah,
like it just,
exactly.
It seems like there has to be a way to do that. It doesn't seem like it would be a stretch.
Ugh, man, that guy's crazy. I mean, even Google didn't want to do facial recognition.
Well,
because they knew how bad
Google
this could be.
Does facial recognition.
Sure.
Don't say they don't. They do. You look at my Google Photos, and it's like, these are all the photos with Blaine in it. These are all the photos with Katey in it, and it's just they do or facial recognition. They're using it specifically to organize the photos that you upload to Google Photos, so they have it in like this very quarantined area that they're using it, but they're not sharing that information.
Yeah, like policing.
And you've probably given them permission to do that.
100%.
Yeah.
I let Google run my life.
You have given them permission.
Yeah, Google knows how many times I've been to Toreros in the last 6 months.
That's right.
I'm like, hey Google, run life, please. Run my life.
Do you remember? Yeah, where I was on Tuesday?
Where did I leave my keys, Google? Like they're in charge of everything at this point.
Wow. And what you watch, they know everything. Yeah, so I'm just not excited about this whole Clearview AI thing. Like,
it's hard to hear.
It's really weird.
Yeah, it's super bizarre. It seems like privacy is kind of like, no more. Especially the internet. Yeah,
that's why we're very specific about our internet, right? Like we have like a
Trusted
internet self, basically, where it's like anytime we take a photo, it's like, this is a photo that is us, but it's a generic place. It's not our home. It's our, these sort of things. Like you've got to be careful about what you put online in a way that you didn't have to be, even think about 20 years ago.
Ooh, the big baddies of the internet.
The big baddies.
You have a lighter question to end on?
Yeah, right.
You want an ender question?
Related to that? It doesn't have to be an ending question. I'm 2 hours behind or ahead of
you. Skip 7. We don't need that.
Okay. What do you think?
That was just my own thing.
Well, then ask your own thing. What is your own thing here?
But it seems like a heavy question because it's like
it's not that heavy. Let's talk about it.
So like I remember going, like, you posted something on your Instagram stories, and it was really impactful to me because it's like, oh, these are the things that people actually really need to do to like people are not happy with like the system as it currently is, right? Like police, BLM, all this stuff. So like, what do people actually like? How can people actually like invoke change? Like protesting is like, it's working, it's, doing certain things, but like to actually like instate in your government the process of change, like what do people actually need to do? Just vote? Is voting enough?
I mean, that is a really good question. Voting is super important because obviously voting at every level also is very important. I think some people get really into like only presidential elections and they just don't vote in local elections at all or anything. Just as important, and more important.
Yeah, real quick on that too is like I feel like people think that voting is like, oh, it's a Democrat or Republican thing. And they don't realize that there's like 14 other parties that you should be voting for so that those parties can also get more money. They may agree with what your thoughts are more. Like the idea that we have a 2-party system just blows my mind.
Everyone knows it's dumb, but we all succumb to it because we feel like your vote doesn't matter if you don't vote these 2 things. But you feel like it doesn't matter.
It's like your vote does matter because they need funding and they only get funding if people vote for them.
That's
drives
true.
me nuts.
Or you just donate to their campaign. That's also a way to get involved, is to donate to the campaigns of the people you actually support.
There you go.
I mean, number one way currently. I mean, if you're also enraged by what's going on, or if you feel like things could be different, whether you're that angry about it or not, obviously you should just be educating yourself. I think that's been like a huge message recently, more than before, that I love and that is super important. If there's a point of view you don't understand, don't just not agree with it. Like research it a little bit and see what it says. Like
why don't you agree with something? Not just I don't agree with that, but wait, and ignore why don't I agree with that? And
research research multiple points of view.
And exactly that next question of I don't agree with it. Why don't I agree with it? Why do they agree with it? That I think is the most important question that people so rarely ask. They
think about their
they
shoes.
will tend to assume, and again, I feel like it stems back to the 2-party idea where it's like, well, that person wants this, this, and this, and we just give that person a label of this is why they do that. And you're like, wait a minute, why does this person feel this way? Because the vast majority of people want what's best for whatever the cause is, whatever their self is, whatever their situation is. And to look at it as though that person wants to take away my rights or wants to take too many rights for themselves, or like whatever it is, it's like you degrade that person into a nothingness argument where it's like there's a human there that for some reason wants X, Y, or Z that you don't want. Maybe you should figure out why they want that.
Yeah, it's got to be important if they want it that much. And it's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's also just such an important piece as it relates to having conversations about these things with family members or friends or anything like that. Like, you do have to really understand why somebody thinks that in order to actually have a productive conversation about racism or the police or anything. Like, those are big topics that people will immediately shut down if you're not actually approaching it in a specific way. And I do think there's been a lot of conversation, and I totally agree that it is kind of like it's our job to have these conversations. And I do think that's a part of the action that you can do, is actually speaking up in certain moments.
Awesome.
Or just even if you are in a room where everybody agrees, just actually talking about those things sometimes is fine.
Yeah.
And really important to like get everybody's points of view and just, have those sort of discussions. I think is really important. The stuff some of the stuff that you were referencing, Katie, that I had shared on Instagram, I think also kind of ties back to some of what I was talking about in, as an attorney, really understanding how a lot of this works sort of behind the curtain.
Right.
And I've had some direct experience with this, but the topic of conversation is police the police the police.
Yes.
And whether it's kind of been divided into sort of three camps right now. It's like police reform, police defunding, and police abolition. And there's a ton of videos out there with way more educated folks than me kind of breaking down what those three things are. But regardless of which one you want or are in favor of, it's really helpful to know who is involved in sort of making these decisions behind the scenes, who actually controls the police. Like, what does that actually look like? There's some federal legislation currently up. I think it's called Justice in Policing. And I think some Democratic senators are trying to get it through, and it is federal legislation, so they are able to directly control sort of federal policing, whatever that looks like. But anything that they're trying to change in states, it's going to be done through federal funding. It's always a condition on receiving federal funding, right? So that is a party for sure, and that is a bill that you can ask your senators to support if you agree with it. That's a way you can act. But the local level, I think, for police specifically is the most important arena to get involved with if you're interested at all in any of the initiatives or topics of conversation that have been going around.
Yeah, I learned that just from the Minneapolis City Council being the board that is in charge of choosing the police funding and all these things. So it's literally, at least in our city, it's down the hill is City Hall.
It's crazy.
Where they meet. Like, I can go quite easily. I could walk if I didn't have a car to be in that meeting to see what they're saying, offer my opinion, and be a part of it. And so, like, there is that federal level where it's like, oh, the Senate or the House are voting on X, Y, or Z. But at your local level, it's as local as your city. And so, like, wherever your city council meets, you can be there and you can be a part of, like, here's what I think cops should do. I think we should have a police force that is for safety and helping people, and we should have a police force that's for emergency situations.
Yeah, totally.
Like, all that kind of stuff. So I definitely learned that.
Yeah, the city is definitely like who has the most sort of direct conversation, impact, control over your police officers. The other party that's involved that I was talking a bit about on Instagram is police unions. So there's police unions that, like, every police officer is a part of. These unions are huge. And they have a ton of control, obviously, over the police. And what happens is, I'm not going to generalize because I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure every police department, probably in every city, is a part of the union, and they have.
I think they have to at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe other legal topics. Maybe there's agreements between, like, the police unions and the city. They're called collective bargaining agreements. Pretty much anytime you have an agreement with the union, it's called a collective bargaining agreement. And so these contracts are where, if it is deemed that a change or something going on or some part of this employment of a police officer needs to be bargained over, like it should go under the contract, then that it's all written down in these agreements. And it truly I've been directly a part of these, like, conversations and these negotiations. I worked in a labor office for a city. So I've seen it, and it is insane how minute the possible change could be that a union is going to say, because I mean they essentially have to, but they're going to say like we need to bargain over this, like we need to talk about it, and it's just like it slows things down, makes it a lot harder to actually get reform. So when we're talking about police reform, it's all going to boil down to these sort of like contract negotiations between your like mayor and city like labor office and the union. Because they're probably going to dispute it.
Right.
There was a whole thing about
their job to dispute it. It literally is their job to dispute it, to make it. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. So there's a lot there that I think you really have to push on your local representatives to make sure that like that is top of the list of their like negotiation list. You know, like we want these things. These are a priority. You know, we want them more than these other things, because it's all a contract negotiation. Like it's just a negotiation process. So you want to make sure that it's like, I want these. I want like, this is what we need the police department to do. Defunding is obviously in a different arena. That's something your mayor's office, like they're setting
whoever is passing your budget. Yeah. Like let's move it away from ammo and like let's buy less ammo for cops and let's pay for more schooling. Let's pay for more, you know,
mental health stuff.
You know, actual like at home
social workers. I don't know.
What is it a social worker that would come in?
I think so,
for
right?
Those kind of situations where like, oh, there's someone with a mental health issue here. We bring them in. And you bring them in, and they're able to like talk down the situation before a cop ever has to get involved. So like you're taking the water that you would put out a fire with, and you're saying instead of buying this water, we're gonna spend money on fireproofing. And so you're spending money on making sure you don't have to call the cops, basically. But you still
preventative care in a way.
So whoever
for the body of society.
whoever where you are is located, you'd want to talk to them about increasing these preventative measures, you know, and so there's that whole argument.
Things need to happen in tandem as well, because people, I think, you know, when you think of, I think politicians are more comfortable like reforming the system as it exists, because that has a process.
Yeah.
And you can talk to them about reducing budgets and changing spending. They do that all the time. I think when you get to the sort of police abolition conversation, that's a much bigger sort of mission and focus that I think is going to take a lot more time. But the one thing I want to encourage people, also sort of a theme throughout this whole conversation, the collective bargaining agreements that exist between your police union and your city are all typically online. That you should be able to access them and read them. And you'll see, I mean, you can see firsthand how difficult it is to actually fully discipline a police officer, to actually fire a police officer. Most of these contracts have ways that police officers can reapply even after being fired for a job. Can you even imagine getting fired from a job and being allowed to reapply and hired again? Like, it's just crazy. And all of these are in these agreements. So I really want to encourage people in your city, like, look up the agreement, just read through it. If there's something you don't understand, like, reach out to somebody that you think might understand it, do a little bit of Googling, but typically, like, you have access to this.
That's awesome.
Like, you should be able to see it, and the people that you can influence are your local representatives. And if you know a police officer, ask them to reach out to their union. Like, unions listen to their union members. So I'm thinking, like, all of these good cops that we talk about, you know, like there's bad cops, good cops, and everybody has ideas about all of that. But you know, if these people exist, like, they should be telling their union, like, I'm fine with this. Like, this is something we want also, so that unions can kind of redirect because unions are also like lobbying against these things. There's there's a lot out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of motion that controls a lot of these situations, and just reaching out to anybody that you have access to in order to like let them know what you think about the situation. You know, whatever edge of it is you're on, and there's a lot of them where like the defund the police. Like, I love the idea of spending more money on preventative measures. I also think that when you have these preventative measures in place, it takes time for those to result in lower crime rates. So you can't immediately have a new budget that says, instead of spending X, we're going to spend it over here. And so you divide this one by 2, but you multiply this one by 2. Like that doesn't function. You have to increase your cost on preventative measures, and then you've got to wait for the preventative measures to take place, that they're actually functioning and lowering your crime rates before you can then, lower, like, hey, we have less crime now, so now we can lower our police rates, or we only have cops for this sort of thing. This one, domestic abuse issue that we had, we're now handling before it becomes an issue. So now we don't need that many cops that are responding to domestic violence issues. And so you've got to have this idea of like, I need to spend the money to get us to where we want to be before we get there. And that's a hard conversation, because then it's like, how much do you spend? And then you also don't see the results for a period of time. And it's like, how long does it take for that period of time before we start lowering this cost? There's a lot of things involved with it. And it's definitely one of those, like, figure out how it works in your area, figure out what you think is best for your area, and be in conversation, or be in the conversation, because it's so local. Like you said, your local police officer, like we were talking, your local council, like, it's so local. You can be a part of it, and you can understand it.
Yeah, I do. I think an illustration that comes to mind, to kind of piggyback off what you said, Blaine, I think about like this, the whole system in my mind is kind of like this hose. For some reason, I imagine a hose, and you've got like the faucet on one end, right, and the spout on the other. I think we can't be siloed in our approach to only do sort of like take one stance on like how to solve this problem, right? The hose is long and involves a lot of different things. It's in total, it's like the criminal justice system, right? And there's flaws all throughout it. And there's interventions and ways that we can sort of like change and fix the system for the better all throughout it as well. And I agree with you. I love the idea of like funding things that are actually going to like get to the source, right? The faucet itself.
Stop, Stop the crime before it happens.
Right? Yeah. But if you shut it off, that water still has to trickle through the rest of the hose, right? You can't just do that one step and fix everything else. Like, there's still going to be a ton of people being fed through the hose until the water is actually all the way out. So you need, like, you have to intervene all throughout it. And that's we talk a lot about police discretion. That's there's prosecutorial discretion, there's sentencing issues, there's a lot of ways that like the judicial system, and when you're in a courtroom, a lot of like diversion programs are something I'd highly suggest people look into. Like, there's a lot of ways that people are sort of trying to like make the system better. And I 100% think that we need to sort of address the source, but we also need to continue to like support these other interventions in order for the entire thing to be better. Right.
It'd be kind of silly to be like, oh, this one thing is going to fix it all. Yeah. The cure-all for the system. Yeah. It's never the case.
And I feel like that's, again, one of my biggest issue with politics is that it's such a two-party system. We defund the cops or we keep the cops. Like, what are the extremities? It's just this extreme lever. And it's like, well, maybe we should kind of like touch the lever a little bit in and out. Like when I drive a clutch, it's not just in and out. Like there's a little bit of tap on that clutch so that you can like move yourself up a hill, you know? And I feel like that's lost on a lot of people when they get so riled up in like one way or the other. Us versus them kind of mentality. And like the like right now in Seattle, we've got the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, the Chaz.
Yes, the Chaz. I had no idea it was called the Chaz until I reached out to a friend of mine.
Oh, really?
I love that.
I love that it's called the Chaz.
Chaz.
And I love that like every picture that you see online of the Chaz has some armed dude in like Kevlar, and it's like, oh, you mean that dude from a news report like a year ago? Not that even you there. Photoshopped into this.
Please tell me this whole story, because I really want to know.
So I'm on the Seattle subreddit, and someone was like, I'm seeing the same guy in all these like thumbnails, and he posted like one was like a CNN thumbnail, one was a Seattle Times thumbnail, and the other one was a Fox thumbnail, and they all had the same dude with a gun and a plate carrier. So it's just like armor. Vest, yeah, it's just an armor plate carrier, and I'm just following this thread because I love these threads. I'm like, oh, these guys are awesome. And so they start posting. I was like, oh, I think I found the guy. And they like pulled up a picture, and it was like kind of a dude and like the same thing, but the shadows were different. And they were like, that's close, but that doesn't look right. And they like, we like three like minutes later, some dude was like, I found it. And they posted the picture of the dude. And then people started like digging into the backgrounds of them, and like the one picture of the dude in front of like broken glass was from like a bank robbery a year ago. Like, like these photos are like so completely composited that Seattle Times, Fox, and CNN, they all had to take these photos down because I don't know where they got them, whether it was their rooms they were putting together or some dude who on Fiverr who was like, this is a thing I'm selling now, you know?
Right.
Like, but it was so hilarious how within like 4 hours this morning, or yesterday morning, I don't remember which, people had figured out where all of the assets for these photos had come from and recompiled them and then sent off all of their complaint letters. And it was so fantastic. And it's so specific where it's like, people see this thing and they're like, we need this to be violent protesters who are doing bad stuff. And so they go out and they create that story. And the reason they create that story is so that they can have everybody that follows them, you know, be scared of A or B. And so they're like, oh yeah, this is the thing that my viewers need to will click on. My viewers will click on it if it's like anger. People like violence. It's violent there. And it's like, It's not. It's not. It's a weird little hippie protest. That's all it is. Yep. It is a bunch of people with like free food and bubbles, and it's hilariously open, and you can just go hang out, it's
be with people.
It's super passive. It's such a Seattle thing.
It's so
It is such a Seattle thing. It makes me so happy.
And it's such a Seattle Cap Hill thing, because you know, like as soon as Seattle starts protesting in like Pike and Pine, and they're down there is immediate riot, and there is immediate like glass breaking of buildings. Like as soon as you're rioting in the central district, some cop is spraying pepper spray and everything catches on fire. Like that's just how it works down there. But when you riot and protest on Cap Hill, there's hot dogs. Like there's a dude blowing bubbles, and there's like it's
happy good.
There's chalk on the sidewalk. Like people in Cap Hill are just like, yeah, this is what we believe. This is what we think. You know, this is our autonomous zone now. It's really hilarious how that all works. Do you know Esterosassin?
Oh, Esterosassin, what's up? Hi, how you doing, man?
we can all read it. Our guests cannot read the chat though, so don't post anything for the guests. But we're wrapping up shortly here.
Yeah, how you doing? Oh, hey, Kumi.
Oh, it's Kumi.
I knew it was you. I had a feeling. I was like, I saw the word assassin. I was like, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
How's it going, man? Yes. But anyway, so there. Yeah, Chaz,
so
I think
there's all kinds of interesting things with that, where it's like
it's too bad that it's all being fabricated, though. Like, why do people have to be like you're the news media? You're supposed to be giving us the news, the facts of things.
The part that was the best of that is that it was on all sides. Like all of the initial posts, of course, that like led to the searches. Like there were 3 different Fox News thumbnails that were used, and so people were like getting on it. But then as we were digging, it was every news outlet that was using these hilarious, like, just caricatures of what they wanted it to be. And it was like, why?
It's like,
why do this? Like, this is so non-news.
Yep.
This
Fake
is
news,
so
literally.
like every Pride Week, you might as well call it the same thing because of how, like, you can't drive up there. You can drive there right now, but you can't drive up there during Pride Week. Everybody's going like this crazy like party. Like the Cap Hill Block Party, you know, just shuts off entire chunks of the street. That's just how Capitol Hill works, you know?
Yeah. But it's just foreign to a lot of people, I guess. So they want to make it crazy.
It is. Oh my gosh, it is. Yeah. I've gotten a lot of friends that have reached out about that in particular because they know I'm from there. And they're like, hey, this thing is happening. And I'm like, I'm not surprised. It sounds really normal.
Well, I'm not surprised.
Not surprised.
All right. Last question.
All right.
What anime are you watching right now?
We are on the same brainwave. I was about to ask that question.
'Cause
yeah.
You suggested Kabukicho Holmes, and that was
fire.
so good.
So good.
We're only
I
through
love that
season 1.
anime.
We've only finished season 1, but Kabukicho Holmes was so good for that first season.
I was laughing.
Mystery solving Rakugo.
Right?
So good.
And the way
who
that they
would've
were
thought
able
those
to use
combinations?
like the classic Holmes characters, and like the whole time I'm sitting there like, when is Moriarty going to become like this like crazy evil person? And then like what's with John? Like Watson is supposed to be like this cool medical professor who's like always his right hand man. Why, like the way they're able to use like the same character name and everything and what you expect from the character in a new way. Oh, so good.
Yeah,
so good.
and hilarious.
Yeah, that's definitely, oh my gosh, number one. I have really been in this quarantine just living my best otaku life.
Nice.
Really, most of all I do is work and then I watch anime.
The best.
I finally started a list of the animes that I've watched because I realized I've
Hummingbird or
looked up
My Anime List?
just like I've just started like an actual.
Oh, like an Excel
Excel
document.
doc. Old school. OG.
Literally just a list of the ones I've watched because I've started. I look at an anime, I'm like, oh, that sounds fun, and then I start watching it. I'm like, I've seen this before. I'm wasting time.
I'm gonna send you a Hummingbird link so that you can start tracking your anime watching.
Okay, all right, thank you. I need it. Gosh, what are some of the ones that I've watched recently that I really like? Other than that one was so good.
I'm sure. like Fruits Basket. Have you been watching that? The new one?
What?
Oh, have you been watching the updated version of Fruits Basket? Did you ever watch that as a kid?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I am watching New Fruits Basket.
So good.
It's incredible. Love it. I'm all caught up. I'm also watching the My Next Life as a Villainess.
Yes, I love that one.
Oh, it's so good.
I love it. It's just so funny because those inner
so
dialogues,
good.
right?
The inner dialogues are
She's just
great,
talking to
but
her little selves.
I think the better part of that series is the first 5 episodes. No, the initial
intro
episodes as a child, where it's like, instead of just starting out and being like, oh, childhood friend,
Yeah.
oh, brother, like whatever, we already know, we have the backstory, so we're not wasting time with like, they used to know each other in this flashback I'm about to tell you about.
But you grew up with her in a way. You like started where she started, and you could see the progression of their relationships and how it ties into the new, factors of her life that she has to avoid. It's so funny. It's so good. A little
bit of the same in The Eighth Son. The Eighth Son has a little bit of that same, where it's like you start out with the childhood.
I haven't seen that one.
Eighth Son is really good. It's like it's very similar, but it doesn't have he doesn't know, there's not like an overarching story that he's gonna like try to follow or go against, but it is one of those where he gets isekai, but he gets isekai as like a kid. And so you start out as a kid in his life, but then it skips forward in a big old time skip to like, now he's older and here's how he's dealing with his life now. So I really like that one.
Yeah, they're both good. So good choices.
Yeah,
Love.
Yeah.
So many
the other one that I've watched that I've really enjoyed recently is called Lovely Complex.
What's
it
that?
is. I think if you look at like any top list of like rom-com anime, it's on there. It's a really funny anime about like a cute romance between a short guy and a very tall girl.
No way.
Nice.
I love that.
Honestly, it's wonderful for like the rom-com aspect, but the friends in it, like all the characters.
Didn't that have a live action?
Did it?
It probably has. It's
either in a J drama or a K drama. Like I remember that like the intro where there's like a fountain and they're in a plaza and then like it measures the girl and then measures the dude and she's getting rejected by like a dude who's shorter than her and he's getting rejected by a gal that's taller than him, and then they go and like sit at the fountain and then like the rest of it is like about how they like meet and fall in love and all that.
That's so cute. Wait, what's it called again?
It's called Lovely Complex.
Lovely Complex. It sounds like Mama Billy's anime of choice.
Yes, Mama Bill.
It's really funny, and it's got really great character development. The side characters are like just as good as the main characters, so it's an enjoyable, lighthearted one if you want something.
Oh, I love it.
Nice.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it.
All right. Well, we have done 3 hours.
Woo!
It's not that time, y'all.
Where can people find you, or where you want people to find you?
Or what do you want to shout out?
Just want to shout out your job, or what is your? Do you have a social of choice?
Find me. I don't have very public things.
I'm not very public. I'm off the Clearview.
Yeah, I would definitely suggest people should check out Year Up. I think the organization I work for is really amazing, and I think doing some of that sort of intervention work that we talked about before. So if people are interested in all, definitely look up Year Up. We have a brand new website, so hopefully it is easy to scroll through.
Woohoo! Yeah, You're Up, baby. Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Well, that was a fantastic time, and we look forward to chatting with you next time. You know, we'll definitely be on. You'll be around, I'm sure.
I'll be around.
Absolutely. We'll have a good time. Awesome.
Thanks, you guys, for hanging out.
See you, everybody.
Bye.